but Sydney and New South Wales, where there's a much tougher situation continuing, remains a real concern.
Anti-lockdown demonstrations in Melbourne and Sydney last weekend were met with a substantial police presence. Adding to the country's difficulties, the Australian government is struggling with public rejection of the AstraZeneca vaccine at a time when sufficient doses of alternatives are not available. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. Fully vaccinated travellers from the US and EU will be allowed to enter England without the need to quarantine on arrival. Star gymnast Simone Biles has confirmed she will not participate in Thursday's Olympic events, citing mental health reasons. And the White House is expected to announce that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Rebecca Foster reporting.
According to a report released this week, people who paint themselves silver and pretend to be statues earn, on average, $10 million per year. The Onion sat down with economist Mark Cosgrave to learn more about the money-making potential of this highly lucrative employment path.
There's no more profitable career at the moment. If you compare these positions to other high-paying jobs, say physicians or mechanical engineers, you'll find that those individuals who have outfitted themselves with silver-painted boxes and can move their limbs stiffly as if they were a robot are making literally hundreds of times as much. At this point, I would say that the only job that offers anywhere near that kind of earning potential is dressing up like Batman and allowing people to pose for photos with you. And those guys who play paint buckets like drums have historically done well for themselves. But honestly, the recession hit these professions pretty hard, and a lot of them are only making something like $800,000 a year at this point. It's barely even worth their time.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Live talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 if you want to join the discussion that we're going to be having here tonight. Hopefully you're watching the video feed over at video.freetalklive.com, because it is a special episode of Free Talk Live. I mean, She Talk Live occurs every Wednesday, and this is always a special, unique episode of Free Talk Live. But tonight, we decided we're going to carry on the tradition from Topless Tuesdays, at least this week, into Topless Wednesdays, more or less just to see what happens.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to hear the phone calls and what kind of response we have, and I can't wait to see how many viewers we have. So everybody, please log in, take it live. We want to see how many records we can break tonight.
I'm already having fun.
Exactly.
I think we're probably already at a record.
Nice. I love it.
So anyway, I want to get things started by talking about the Olympic athlete. Now, I generally don't care about sports. I really don't. So I have a painting. I didn't even know the Olympics were happening. Of course, this is 2021. So why are the Olympics happening anyway?
Yes.
Apparently, they're the 2020 Olympics.
Are they in Japan now this time?
They are in
Japan.
Japan.
It is in Japan.
But an Olympic champion, Biles is her name, Simone Biles, actually, she's not going to defend her Olympic title. The American gymnastics superstar, and it's worth pointing out here that she evidently is the greatest of all time in her sport.
Yes, that's what I have heard.
She's in a league of her own. I don't know anything about gymnastics, but from what I've gathered,
she's amazing. She's very, very unique when she performs. Her performances are very, very fluid, and she doesn't make any mistakes. And she is probably the top of the pack.
And she's broken record after record.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she is amazing. She is certainly a trailblazer in the world of gymnastics.
Well, she withdrew from Thursday's all-around competition to focus on her mental well-being. USA Gymnastics said in a statement on Wednesday that the 24-year-old is opting to not compete. And this has made a lot of people very unhappy, especially conservative people, because they view this as shameful. She should have carried on despite her mental health for the glory of the country.
That's it, for the sport. And the way that it used to be is if you had some kind of mental issue or some kind of ailment, then you just pushed through. You didn't make it public. You didn't talk about it. And now they're saying that, hey, if you have a mental illness or you can't perform, if something's wrong, don't perform. It's okay to be human.
And that's a better way of handling it. I would certainly agree. And but from what I've noticed, it's not just for the good of the sport. people wanted her to carry on, especially among the conservatives, the Republicans. They're upset because this makes America look weak.
Yeah, because she's an American athlete. So she was competing in the American Olympics.
They're on the internet saying she should have brought home a gold medal for us.
And she would have.
She would have, but it's not their gold medal.
Nope, it's not. It's hers.
But they think it is. It's America's gold medal.
America won. They won this, this part of the Olympics.
And for the good of the country, she should have pushed on through and continued performing. They need to stop with that commie nonsense.
I admire her. And there's also another athlete that just recently came up with another mental health thing that said, hey, I can't compete for this. And they were, saying this is great. Now that Simone has come out with it, other athletes are not afraid to come out and say, I'm mentally broken right now.
And I don't blame them because I know Simone Biles and a group of the other girls that were in the U.S. Olympic gymnastics team were getting molested by the doctor for years. And this came out and nobody really spoke about it except for one girl. And after she came forward, they all were like, yeah, it happened to me too.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her for having mental health issues. Who wouldn't?
After something like that, and after working as hard as she did to get into the Olympics, not once, but this is her second appearance at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's put herself through a lot. If she wants to take a step back, hey, you go, girl. So Jade Carey, who finished 9th in qualifying, will take Biles' place in the all-around. It gets into the actual topic, the actual sports here that I don't particularly care about, saying we've had some conversations and she seems like she's doing what's best for her. It's awesome to see that she's gotten to go against the pressure of society and do what's best for herself.
I think that's great because people don't take care of themselves. They never put themselves first. And it's important that you have self-love and self-discipline for yourself in order to be good for the people around you.
Absolutely. And a lot of people think it's a sign of weakness, and it's really not. It's important to take care of yourself. And, one day she's not always going to be this gymnast. One day, you're going to get older and she's not going to be able to do it. And she's going to have all of these injuries that she's going to have to live with.
Yeah, exactly.
All these people don't have to live with those injuries and that mental anguish, but she does. So good for her for doing what's best for herself. That's really an honorable thing to do, I think.
It is. This Olympics is proving weird, and I wish I'd been paying more attention to it because evidently there's also a volleyball team or something that is being fined because they refuse to wear bikinis.
And it was, and I don't know exactly which team it was. I don't think it was the American, but it might
wasn't.
have.
Yeah, it was another country.
But now Pink, the music artist, has come up and said, hey, I will pay that fine for them. They're not going to have to come out of pocket.
Awesome.
She's going to pay the fine for the entire team because she supports them and their right to not be made sex objects. If they want to wear freaking pants that come down to their thighs, and they're not big pants. It's not like they're pants that come way down to their knees.
They're just ordinary shorts, aren't
they? The volleyball shorts are very revealing anyway. So if they want to wear those and they want to wear their little tops, then more power to them. You're freaking hitting a ball around a court, hitting the ground. Why do you need something crawling up your butt?
It's weird that they have that dress code.
It is.
And it's not like it's going to make you perform better to be wearing shorts.
No, but I think it's about viewers. I think that if they have that dress code and they're able to, the more skin they can show, like tonight, the more skin we can show.
Yes, but we're doing this to make a point.
But it doesn't matter. The viewers don't really care. As long as we're showing that skin, they're going to tune in. Just like Olympics, if they need those viewers, they're going to say, you can't wear that. You got to wear something a little more revealing.
The Olympic Committee made a number of really strange choices this year about how to handle things. I know they banned a certain type of swimming cap that was used strictly by African Americans, and they were called racist for doing that.
Of course,
because it is kind of,
What was the reason? Like, why did they say, hey, you can't
exactly
use it?
Now, they want everything standardized, apparently, and that's the issue they have with these uniforms. So, okay, standardize these shorts then.
Exactly. So let everybody wear shorts.
Yeah.
And what about the men? Are they going to wear the little Speedos?
It would be interesting to see the Olympic Committee do that,
let's put it across the board. If they're going to make the women wear these little bitty bikini bottoms, let's make the men wear the little bitty Speedos where their packages are really full frontal.
So Simone Biles posted on social media on Monday that she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, and I could barely blame her. She's the best in her sport.
She is, yeah.
That's
and everybody aspires to be her.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine what she's going through every single day of her life, having all of that, resting on her. It's a lot.
The weight became too much for her shoulders. The weight became too heavy after vaulting during team finals. She lost herself in midair and completed 1.5 twists instead of 2.5. She consulted with the U.S. team doctor, Marcia Foston, before walking off the field. When she returned, she took off her bar grips, hugged teammates, and turned into the team's head cheerleader as the U.S. claimed silver behind the Russian Olympic Committee. Once I came out here to compete, I was like, no, mental is not there. So I just need to let the girls do it and focus on myself. Now, she's being characterized as weak for doing this.
She is, but that's huge for an athlete. I played sports all my life. And in order to be able to step back and let your team carry you, that is an amazing feat right there, because I broke my ankle and I did not step back. I continued playing, and we were like, hey, the volleyball shoes come above it. So I played with a broken ankle so that we could go and win that, that game and that tournament. And was I hurt? Yeah, I was hurt. And did I need to sit on the bench? Yeah, I needed to sit on the bench. But mentally and for my team, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and you probably made that injury so much worse.
I did.
And actually, what you're saying, it's harder to step down than it is to just carry through it.
Absolutely.
Because then you have that feeling of failure lingering.
And your team they're depending on you, especially if you're the best.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that, this has worked out for her. And, presumably now she's going to retire, because I can't imagine she wants to ever take this pressure back up.
Good for her. I think it's a great time.
Good on here. Congrats to the Olympic team for winning the silver medal. They're saying, they lost the gold medal.
Oh, it's silver. It's just silver. It's still a freaking medal. You still placed enough to get a medal.
And also, does any of this really matter? Like, people think that this is like the most important thing in the world, and it's the Olympics. It's a big deal, and it's all of these, all of these Olympians' dreams. But there are so many more things that are important than the Olympics.
Yeah, it would matter to me if nations use this as a way of reconciling conflicts.
But they don't. It's the opposite.
Yeah, it just causes a lot of issues.
It does. So what are your thoughts on all of this? Should she have pushed through the mental suffering and completed the Olympics? I don't think she should have.
No way.
I'm glad that she's now moving forward to be happy, because in my opinion, that's the most important thing. But maybe you think differently. 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line to talk with us. 603-283-6160. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You're welcome to join the discussion. 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line for you to do that. 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria,
Nikki, and Angie.
And Angie, you brought in this hilarious story about an officer of the year out of some police department.
I did. I read the headline and I was like, are you serious? So I read the article, and the facts that were in the article were amazing. It says that cop got awarded Officer of the Year despite not working a single day in 2020.
I would give that person Officer of the Year. Good job,
Isn't
officer.
that great? He still had salary, but he never did any cop work.
That is great.
Yeah.
It would be better if he wasn't paid for it, with theft. But.
Exactly.
But he was the only one not terrorizing people, so I guess that's
he was
good.
under investigation. That's why he was out of work.
Oh.
Let's go into the article so you can hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's from the Free Thought Project, and it says, in June, Detective Eric Watershed stood behind the podium before the El Monte City Council's last meeting to honor Officer Carlos Molina. Watershed bestowed upon him the prestigious Police Officers Association Officer of the Year Award for 2020. He's been with us for 21 years, Watershed said. I remember when he first walked into the detective bureau, his leather was squeaking. I read his reports and I said, go into detectives. You're an excellent investigator. He never looked back. While dozens of officers in the room said nothing, others looked on in disbelief that Molina was chosen for the award given the fact that he received Officer of the Year. Molina hadn't worked in the last 19 months.
So more than a year and a half.
19 months. How in the world do you get an award if you've not set foot in the office?
So who was it who did the voting here? Was it
fellow officers? And they did it as a joke because they were trying to make fun of the system and how broken it was. And boy, did they
still won.
I mean, they freaking did it.
That is
wow.
That is surprising. That I assumed this was some sort of community vote or something like
Wouldn't
that.
it have to be votes for people who were active, who were actually working? Wouldn't that make sense? But no, it was any officer across the board in the police department. It says, according to San Gabriel Valley Tribune, Tom Madruga, a contract attorney for the city, pointed out that Molina has been on paid administrative leave from September of 2019 to April of 2021.
Now, does it get into what he did?
It does.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He was given an award for a period in which essentially spent on vacation, earning over $200,000 for not even lifting a finger in official police capacity.
That's
so
pretty good pay.
He got paid $200,000 for 19 months and never did any work.
What a great use of tax dollars. I'm so glad we
yes.
all paid for that guy's
I love
salary for
it.
doing absolutely nothing.
As the Tribune reports, Molina was under investigation for how he handled his last case involving child abuse. Molina, a detective at the time, was placed on leave because he spent a year working on a child abuse investigation that yielded little work product. Sources close to the investigation said that on condition of anonymity, additionally, he charged the city for 42 hours of overtime pay, equating to more than $4,400 during that period. Molina was probing the alleged physical abuse of 23-month-old Britallion Vasquez at the hands of her mother, Donica, and stepfather, Oswaldo Uduro Chan. Molina's
And he did this for a year?
He was on that case for a year, and very little reports were made, very little allegations. There wasn't a lot of work that they could see that he did.
So he basically has not been working as a cop for 31 months.
Yeah, pretty much. If he was 19 months, yeah, so that's a while. Yeah. And it says that he worked on it from October of 2018 to October of 2019 when the case was yanked from him and turned over to Detective Pedro Yanez. Now, Yanez closed the case in 44 days.
Wow.
44 days.
That's the best part, too. So not only has he not been working for over a year, but even when he was working, he wasn't even a very good cop at that, or any sort of
It says
worker.
that Yanez submitted it to the Los Angeles County District Attorney on November of 2019. Prosecutors subsequently filed felony child abuse charges against Chan and Vasquez, the mother and stepfather.
Oh, so
this 23
the case wasn't closed like, okay, we're done investigating.
No, they just gave it to somebody else, and somebody else did it in 44 days, what he couldn't get done in a year.
So because of him doing this, that the child got abused for a full year that wasn't really necessary.
Well, I'm assuming it would probably be in like foster care or something,
Nope.
right?
It says Britallion Vasquez, now 4, suffered bone fractures and burns, a district attorney spokeswoman said. Chan and Vasquez will appear in Los Angeles County Court on August 9th. Meanwhile, the administrator investigation was launched into Molina's handling of the case. Although he was allowed to return to the force after 19 months off the job, he was reassigned as a patrol officer. Now I feel much safer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Having him on the street.
Well, if we're going to have cops on the streets, I would rather they be inept and incompetent and lazy and just wanting to draw a paycheck.
Just doing my job.
Yeah, I would rather they not be out there, beating women in the face with their feet.
Or pushing them into nightstands or choking them or whatever.
It's really concerning to me because, I think we're probably all in agreement that police are completely not necessary and they normally do more harm than good. But people have the argument in things like this with like child abuse cases and, investigating stuff like that. And even in a position where there was a child being in imminent harm, being abused with broken bones, he didn't feel the need to do a good job in that case and actually help that child. Instead, he did absolutely nothing. And
so the child sat there for over a year in the abusive situation before anything was done. And it took the other detective 44 days to say, hey, this is probably not okay. It says, according to the report, some of the officers thought Molina's Officer of the Year award was merely a bad joke to possibly embarrass the police chief, David Reynos.
It sounds like he should be embarrassed.
Oh, yeah, he should absolutely be embarrassed. Just wait. It says, I feel Molina received the votes as a joke or a way to send a message of dissatisfaction, Sergeant Jimmy Pitts said in an email sent to the entire city council the night before the June 29th council meeting, according to the Tribune. Pitts tried to get the council to stop the award, pointing out that it would be a disservice to the members of the EMPOA, which is the police department there, the city council, and city residents if the award ceremony moved forward.
Well, it sounds like they need to be embarrassed.
Well, and they kept going. He says, if the public or media learned that the city council publicly recognized a police officer who did not work a single day in 2020, but was paid his full salary for the entire year, had benefits, it could bring unneeded negative attention to the EMPOA city and police department, Pitts said. Well, now we have learned.
They didn't even fire this guy.
No, they didn't. They didn't fire him. They did not stop the awards. They kept going with everything, even though they were warned by the sergeant that said, hey, this is not okay.
So they just shuffled him over to the street patrol department, and he got to keep his job.
Yep, the gentleman that got the police officer of the award, he was put back into the police department as active duty, and now he is a patrol officer.
Are we surprised, though?
Absolutely
I'm
not.
not surprised.
No. It says, well, now we have learned that this and the mayor council members and police union look rather silly for refusing to listen to Pitts. Adding insult to injury is the fact that city councilman Martin Hanera shared Pitt's concern, but is also ignored. Molina did not perform anything in 2020, so how does he get awarded Officer of the Year when there were other deserving officers, Herrera said. I think it's an affront to the city administration and to the council itself. I think the board is being antagonistic just to be contrary to the city manager and police chief. Why else would they do something like this?
Well,
I think it's great.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. I mean,
it just points out that the police departments and everything, they're all a joke.
Absolutely.
We cannot take anything that they say or do seriously. If they can't even get their active officers an award, and they give this man an award and he's just sitting there at home.
Well, the officers themselves are basically saying, hey, this entire thing is a joke.
Yes, and they voted for this one to make it look like a joke, and it worked.
What are your thoughts? Should this officer have been the Officer of the Year? I can't think of anyone better. Someone who did nothing. 603-283-6160.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Fully vaccinated travelers from the U.S. and EU will be allowed to enter England without the need to quarantine on arrival. The changes were announced by the UK Transport Secretary and come into force next week. John Beaver has the latest.
Up to now, only those vaccinated in the UK are recognised by the increasingly complex travel rules here. It means for those fully vaccinated, there's no need to quarantine when returning from more than 100 countries on the green and amber travel list. From the 4th of August, those rules will also apply to people vaccinated in the United States and European Union. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said the move will reunite people living in the US and European countries with their family and friends in the UK.
Star American gymnast Simone Biles has confirmed she is dropping out of Thursday's individual events at the Tokyo Olympics following her unexpected withdrawal from the team competition on Tuesday. Biles, who's often called the greatest gymnast of all time, says she needs to prioritize her mental health over the games. She was expected to take gold in many of this week's events. The White House is expected to announce that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. This comes as the U.S. is seeing a rise in coronavirus cases and experiencing sluggish vaccination rates. Our U.S. correspondent William Denzelo reports.
Citing a White House official, The Washington Post reports that President Biden is expected to make the announcement Thursday. But officials also say a policy review is still underway and plans could alter. A move to require federal employees to get a COVID-19 vaccine or face repeated testing would mark a significant shift in approach as the nation seeks to curb the spread of the virus and encourage more people to get vaccinated. Less than half the population is currently fully vaccinated.
In Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan and other government officials have received COVID-19 vaccine jabs as the country launches its inoculation campaign. President Hassan expressed confidence in the safety of vaccines and said the country will seek to attain more doses. Daniel Kijo has more from Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan took her COVID-19 vaccine jab today. Her country becomes the latest country to roll out a COVID-19 inoculation plan. On the continent, it's only Burundi and Eritrea that are yet to begin vaccinations. The Tanzania vaccine rollout was broadcasted live on national television, where the Prime Minister, Health Minister, and other high-profile government officials also got vaccinated. President Samia said she hopes citizens follow her lead and take the jab. Tanzania received 1,058,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on Saturday through the COVAX initiative.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the discussion, that's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria,
Nikki, and Angie.
And Nikki, I think it was you who brought in the story about California and how much they hate cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah.
Basically. So they basically made it illegal to buy a gaming PC or a high-end PC. Now, to me, I don't really care about that because I can imagine how many people are actually out there buying pre-built gaming PCs.
I can imagine.
Well, and that's the thing too. You can just buy a different one and kind of build it up yourself. So there are ways to get around it. But
it was a problem with the power usage, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
allegedly. So it's actually not just California. I think it's 6 other states too. I think Washington and Oregon too. So Dell is banned from selling its powerful gaming PCs in California because it consumes more energy than the liberal state's green laws allowed. This is an article from the Daily Mail. Computer maker Dell.
Well, that's not the way it works. I mean, if you put a heavy load on it, it can certainly use a significant amount of power, but just having powerful components isn't necessarily going to cause that to happen.
Right. If it's just sitting there idle or you're just perusing, Google or the news or something like that, it's not going to pull all that power. It's just if you're actively gaming.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a car. So like you can have a 700 horsepower car and you can ride it in third gear and you're not going to use that much power. But once you get it up into sixth gear and you're really making the engine work, then that's when it's using the gas and the power. So computers work similarly. So the article continues to say, computer maker Dell has been banned from shipping its gaming system Alienware to customers in California due to power consumption regulations. The Alienware Aurora R12 gaming desktop without the 11th generation Intel Core processor is the only model that can be shipped to all 50 states. The other 3 systems with the powerful chip, which range in price from whatever, $1,000 to $2,000, cannot. So according to...
wow, California would hate me.
I wonder if you could order that component separately and then stick it in yourself.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
I mean, they can't stop you.
Right. So, I mean,
you can kind of do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna email them. Can I have permission to do this?
I mean, it's not like there's a national registry of computer parts that you have to, say, oh, look, yes, I received this graphics card or this processor or whatever. So the government of California would never know.
But being that they have like limits on how much power you can use, I wonder if the power company would report you, oh, this person's using too much.
In California, it seems like they're kind of headed in that direction. Definitely not right now, but it seems like they're headed in that direction, which is really scary that people don't even have the right to use however much power they want and pay their electricity bill.
All I'm going to say is that if you haven't invested in solar, you should get to it.
Absolutely. Yep. I want to get solar here, but it's a long-term project, and I've got enough long-term projects going on right now without starting a new one. But it would...
Just add it to the list.
Yeah, not necessarily to save money or anything like that. It makes sense to have energy independence as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And solar allows the average person to at least have some level of energy independence.
I think at some point we won't have access to power from the power companies. I think that the grid will go down and things will hit the fan and that we will be like, oh, it's really happening.
Fortunately, at the present, though, you had mentioned that, the electric company may report them. Unless things are set up differently in California, at least in any of the places I've lived, the power company has no way of knowing what you have running that is using the amount of power that you're using.
Right. But they can report you and say, hey, you might want to go investigate address ABC because they are using a substantial amount more than DEF is using right beside of them.
That's true. They may very well do that.
Yeah. We rented a house at one time and we had some LED lights like growing veggies and stuff. And the people were like, oh, because power was included in the rent. And they were like, we're going to have to go up on your rent after this lease is up. We were like, oh my gosh. No problem. We're moving.
So it's not just California. It is, let's see, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington have also prohibited the sale of this computer.
Jesus.
So
this one computer from Dell?
I think
I'd be very curious to know what the specs
I think I'm going to look it up. I might need one of those.
Well, if it's $2,000, based on what I know about these pre-built gaming PCs, It's not. It's going to be mid-range at
Yeah,
best.
it's not that great.
No.
So what it says is California law restricts anything made after July 1st to 50, 60, or 70 kWh a year. I don't know what that means. I don't really know that much about
Kilowatts per hour. Is that right? kWh, kilowatts
I think so.
per hour?
So they can't. So devices themselves cannot use a certain amount of power.
Right.
Okay.
But wouldn't that come from like your power supply and your video card and your processor?
If you're running at max load, I don't know what sort of kilowatt hour you might get out of a gaming PC.
Maybe they're having issues with the gaming PCs used for mining.
Well, that's certainly what it is.
Because that's what they do with them. I mean, if you get a gaming PC with a high-end video card or something of that nature, most people are not using it for games. Adults, anyway, they're using it to mine crypto.
Yeah, and they have it running all the time.
Exactly.
And it seems more like an attack on cryptocurrency. They know that people are mining, and they know that they're probably using these systems more likely to mine rather than game. So they don't want people mining.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
They want
to me.
people using that dirty fiat.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could mine cryptocurrency. I actually do just use mine for gaming and for like video processing and stuff like that. I wish I could mine cryptocurrency because I recently upgraded a graphics card to a $2,400 one that could probably mine a lot of
Aria, you're completely out of this range. You can't buy that video card in California.
No, probably not. No, this computer would not be allowed there. I mean, especially when it's under heavy load and
You're going to coyote it in.
Coyote it in?
Coyote to like the coyote people
Like
to
smuggle
Mexico.
it?
Oh.
Yeah, they're going to smuggle it into California.
Well, I have no desire to go to California, and I can't imagine New Hampshire becoming one of these states to do this. I
No
mentioned
way.
6 of them. Vermont, I'm not surprised to hear it included. Hawaii, also not. I'm sort of surprised New York wasn't included.
Yeah. Well, in the article, the last sentence said that the reasoning behind it, hang on, let me pull this up one more time. The restrictions stem from the idea that California is the most populous state in the nation, has the largest economy, and is second only to Texas in total energy consumption. So that was kind of their excuse for it, so to speak. But
So they
if
have
other states are following their lead, then because I can't imagine that Vermont is using that much energy,
No way,
or
there's
has
not
that
a-
much population.
Exactly. They're not that hugely populated, so they can't use a whole bunch. But, I would imagine that there are probably mining, I don't know, what are they called when there's a whole bunch of miners in one?
Mining farms?
Yes, that there's probably mining farms in California that are using an astronomical amount of power, and they're trying to crack down on those. So they hey, you can't use that gaming PC or you can't use that computer because you're using too much.
Well, I imagine most mining farms in California would be using like ASICs and not your standard video card.
Exactly. But they still pull a lot of power.
I would imagine they do.
I mean, we use miners for heat, and our power bill is pretty pricey, especially in the winter. People are like, "Oh, how much is your power bill?" I'm like, "I don't know, $500-$600 a month." Holy cow! Why is it so much? I'm like, because we're using them for heat, and they heat very well. If you haven't tried it.
They do anything electronic that is doing work generates a lot of heat. Like it's not usually that bad to sit here because the room is nicely air conditioned. But when we're doing the show and all of this stuff is on and there's video processing going on over here, it gets very, very hot.
So it's a very good night to be topless.
It is.
So,
Exactly.
And apparently it's a good night to have a fire. I wasn't planning to. Well, it was in the back of my mind that I may end up burning stuff tonight.
Maybe that's what people, they telepathically, they knew. They were like, hey, is Aria having a fire? I was like, I don't know. I haven't heard. They were like, well, are you sure? But like several people ask me.
Yes, and that's so weird. Because
Before you even planned it?
I haven't said anything to anyone about having a fire. The most I did was straighten up the cardboard in the fire pit and threw a couple of pieces of wood on it. That was it. That was because I was just cleaning up the space.
And now I was like, hey, Aria, are you having a fire? She's like, I don't know. Maybe. I was like, great. Well, it's already planned for you. I don't know if you knew.
So I guess that's what we're doing. But as you mentioned, tonight we're doing a topless episode of the show. You can check it out at video.freetalklive.com. There's more coming up here. 603-283-6160 if you want to join the conversation. That's 603-283-6160.
Are you making sense to the boomer mindset? I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. 80 million baby boomers comprise 25% of the population and control most of the USA's wealth. As aging parents pass on, they'll control more. Boomers are 46 to 65 years old and regard themselves as midlife. They identify as neither young nor old. They're post-minivan and pre-retirement, and they don't like being called boomers. They think me. Many of the purchases boomer couples make are individual purposes. They've been experimenters all their lives. If you want their attention, tell stories and keep it simple. If something seems complicated, boomers can dismiss it as, I don't need this. And if you're looking for work, you may be applying to a boomer, so relate accordingly. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
Now, you also said in another video that the moon is an iPod. Can you explain that one?
I believe the moon, the reason why it turns the color that it does is because it fills up with the humidity and water from the transmission of electrons or electricity. I believe that we're upside down being pulled by magnets right now. The actual ocean is in the sky, and they're reserving that sky. The reason we have thunder and lightning is because of the shock waves that go through the two skies up above. Otherwise, where's the thunder and lightning going to come? Because there's no way the clouds are that thick, or the planes wouldn't be able to go through it.
Have you ever been abducted by aliens?
No. Wait a second. Hold on a second. I think so. 45 minutes every single night.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join the discussion if you want. 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line for you to do that. 603-283-6160. And I want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. It is the place to go to learn about cryptocurrency. If you're new to this technology, you don't know anything about it, Bitcoin.com is the place to go. Just click Getting Started up at the top, and you'll find a number of short videos there that will tell you everything, not everything you need to know, but the very basics of cryptocurrency so that you can actually get involved in this world-changing technology And it is world-changing technology, and it's only going to become something that people talk about more and more as time goes on. So learn about it over at Bitcoin.com. And if you already know about it, you can still stay up to date on all of the news in the cryptocurrency world by visiting news.bitcoin.com.
I was going to say that because I have never been to bitcoin.com. And so today, as I'm riding down the road, coming back to this area, I was like looking for articles and I was like, oh, let's go to bitcoin.com. So I went to the site and I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff on that page.
It's an awesome website.
Right? Yeah.
I can't go to it right now. I wasn't even sure when I got released if I could even do the bitcoin.com live read,
I remember that you asked me the very first time, you were like, hey, read this. And I was like, all right.
Well, that was like right after I got out of jail. So a bit of an overabundance of caution there.
I can't blame you.
Yeah. I want to talk about, speaking of an overabundance of caution, New South Wales is extending their lockdown. Now, we've talked about them a few times. This is the territory or state in Australia that said, don't even talk to your neighbor. Don't smile at them.
Yes.
Just ignore them.
Yep.
And that's a horrific thing to tell someone. But they also have said worse things. We talked about it last night. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something that was just, they reported that out of the 171 new cases, I think that was the number that they had yesterday, all but one of them were fully vaccinated.
That's crazy because I thought that if you were vaccinated, you couldn't get it.
That's normally how it works, right?
I'm wrong, I guess, right? Obviously.
Well, it's a cold virus, and they mutate very quickly.
So then you have to get multiple vaccines multiple times in order to be vaccinated against all of them. And they don't have vaccines that protect you against every single variant.
Well, and they're also not vaccines, but that's a whole nother
because you're in the medical field. So am I right?
It's not a vaccine. It's not a vaccine at all. It is gene therapy. It does not prevent you from getting COVID. You know how many patients we've had in the hospital that have tested positive for COVID after they just got the COVID vaccine?
Now, don't they say that if you get the COVID vaccine that you are going to test positive shortly after because they give you some form?
No, because normally like with a vaccine, they put like a little bit, like it's called attenuated.
Yeah.
So they put a little bit of the weakened virus in you. So then your body, it's supposed to trigger your immune cells.
Right.
And then you're supposed to not be able to get it. So like with stuff like polio, it works, with the flu, it normally works. But with the COVID-19 vaccination, it is not any part of, there is no COVID that is being injected into you. It's not a weakened version of COVID.
No, it only deals with the spike proteins.
Yep, so it's an mRNA vaccination. So instead, they're putting these weird chemicals into you that are supposed to alter your genetic makeup basically, but instead of triggering your immune system, what it's really doing is it's triggering people's blood cells. So it's affecting their platelets counts are going down, so people are getting bleeding disorders.
Is this why the blood clots are appearing?
Yep, so people are getting, people are hemorrhaging, but they're also getting blood clots because it turns your blood cells into, it misshapens them basically. So people are getting these bleeding disorders where now their blood is clotting. So people are having strokes, people are having heart attacks, people are having blood clots because it's negatively affecting the blood. And we are seeing an increase of patients. I work on a cardiac unit. We are seeing an increase of patients coming in with all of these bleeding disorders. It's cardiac unit, so we always see this stuff. But I would say at one point when I realized maybe like over 90% of my patients on the floor were vaccinated.
Wow.
I was, it's Massachusetts, so we kind of have a high vaccination rate anyways.
That's scary.
But I was kind of like, this can't be a coincidence. You get the vaccine 2 weeks and now you have a new heart condition that just came up out of the blue.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do. You just have to eat it and you have to go to the doctor and take care of it yourself because you can't go back to the vaccine manufacturer and say, hey, this is because of you, because they're not held responsible.
No,
well,
they're
even
not.
If they were, you're not really going to be able to prove that the blood clots or the hemorrhaging are a direct result of the
doctors
mRNA.
won't even admit it.
Well, the average person has like a really bad lifestyle. So it's not like they eat healthy or they exercise or they're in good shape or they're great for their age or their weight. And so the doctor can easily say, oh, it's because you're obese. Or, even if you're not technically obese, the BMI scale says that you're obese if you're like 20 pounds overweight. And technically, people who are 20 pounds overweight, they're not always obese. Sometimes they're just athletic.
Sure. And on top of all of that, on top of all of the possible side effects, none of which do we know anything about, by the way, it doesn't even protect you against COVID-19.
No, exactly.
Vaccinated people are still getting it. And they blame the unvaccinated people for this. And what they don't understand is basic evolution. With these viruses evolving, if you have an area where more than 50% of the population is vaccinated, then the virus that mutates in a way that it can bypass that vaccine is by definition going to be the most successful strain of that virus.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're characterizing the Delta variant as being more contagious than other forms of COVID. I don't believe that's true. It's just the strain that actually figured out how to get past the vaccination.
How many strains do they claim that there are right now?
I don't know.
I have
They
no
haven't even
clue.
named all of them. Some of them were just known as letters and numbers that seemed random at the time.
So it's just like a regular cold.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if Arya has a cold, there's a chance I'm going to get a cold.
And I also want to point out that there has never been a successful vaccination for a coronavirus because of the mutation factor. And I think it's just been hard for them to be able to turn any coronavirus into a vaccination like they would with like the flu.
Yep.
And also, there has never been a successful mRNA vaccination that I know of. I could be wrong on that. I'm not like 100% positive. But there has never been, they've never had a vaccination for the common cold or like when they had like swine flu and there was another
Didn't they have
one
a swine
too.
flu vaccine?
SARS.
Am I right that did they have a swine flu vaccine?
I don't
think
believe
they
so.
did, but it had really bad. One of them had a vaccine, but it killed people.
I think it was
yeah,
the
nothing
swine.
that was widely used.
Yeah,
It
and I don't
probably got
think
dropped.
that it was adopted by a lot of people. Like very few people took
Well, it was a
like,
great big
during
nothing burger.
during the Obama administration, right? I'm pretty sure that was when it happened, and it wasn't one that they required. It wasn't one that they pushed. But then it fizzled out. People built up immunity, and then it wasn't a problem anymore.
Well, they're worried that because this is a coronavirus, that people won't really build up immunity, just like you don't build up immunity to the cold. But this is the same reason that vaccinations never worked for the cold, right? And this is what we've been saying on Free Talk Live from the beginning: is that, suddenly we now have a method where we can vaccinate against the common cold. Where have they been locking up this technology for all of my life?
Now, tell me what you mean by you said it was a coronavirus. What does that mean? What does that have to do with it?
Nikki would be better to answer that question.
Can
I
you
just know
explain
that
that?
the common cold
So-
is a type of coronavirus.
Yes. So coronaviruses, there are thousands of different types of coronaviruses. It's just a type of virus. The common cold, MERS, I think was one of them. That was one of the big ones that was more deadly and more contagious. But it's a giant scale, and it can range from anything like the common cold to something that is more serious. But there are thousands and thousands of them. And
Is the flu a coronavirus?
What?
Is the flu a
Nope.
coronavirus? Okay.
No, it's not a
So
coronavirus.
corona is just a blanket term.
Basically, yeah, it's just
Okay.
a type of virus.
Okay.
I think it has something to do with the shape of it and like the microscopic nature of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I thought it was just some term that they pulled out of the air and was like, hey, this is corona.
So at first they were calling it the novel coronavirus because it was a new coronavirus that we had never seen before, and it was acting differently, and people were getting sicker. And really the reason that happened was because it was man-made and it was created in a lab. And
So
I
it
had
was
been
new.
saying that for over a year, and people were calling me crazy. People were saying I was a conspiracy theorist. And then it just came out recently that they were doing this research in a lab in Wuhan, China, and there were American scientists working at that lab.
Exactly.
So I don't think any of this is a coincidence. I'm not going to
It
go.
was paid for by Dr. Fauci.
Yep.
And the COVID-19, they tell us, it originated with a bat, and they were specifically experimenting on bat coronaviruses in the Wuhan research facility. And no, that's not a foolproof, it's not foolproof evidence. However, it's enough circumstantial evidence that this virus originated in the
if
lab.
you were in front of a jury, you're probably going to get a guilty verdict with all of that evidence.
Yeah, they're going to have to convince me all of that, which would make perfect sense, is not true. And but the average person doesn't care. They just believe whatever the talking heads in the media and the government tell them to believe. So if the media says, no, that's nonsense, that's a conspiracy theory, then the average person is just going to write it off and never pay any attention to it.
Our government would never lie to us.
But they do lie to us. They said get the shot and you can take off the mask, right?
Yes.
Just get the jab and you can go back to normal. And now they're
No
like,
way.
oh yeah,
Gotta have
you
two.
got the jab.
Yep, just kidding. Two
And we know it's
masks.
got these side effects, and we know you still get COVID-19, but we know all of that's true. Put on the mask anyway.
Exactly.
603-283-6160 if you want to join us at 603-283-6160. When we come back, we're going to talk about New South Wales and their lockdown and how much worse it is in Australia than it is here. It's Free Talk Live.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Fully vaccinated travelers from the U.S. and EU will be allowed to enter England without the need to quarantine on arrival. The changes were announced by the UK Transport Secretary and come into force next week. John Beaver has the latest.
Up to now, only those vaccinated in the UK are recognised by the increasingly complex travel rules here. It means for those fully vaccinated, there's no need to quarantine when returning from more than 100 countries on the green and amber travel list. From the 4th of August, those rules will also apply to people vaccinated in the United States and European Union. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said the move will reunite people living in the US and European countries with their family and friends in the UK.
Star American gymnast Simone Biles has confirmed she is dropping out of Thursday's individual events at the Tokyo Olympics following her unexpected withdrawal from the team competition on Tuesday. Biles, who's often called the greatest gymnast of all time, says she needs to prioritize her mental health over the games. She was expected to take gold in many of this week's events. The White House is expected to announce that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. This comes as the U.S. is seeing a rise in coronavirus cases and experiencing sluggish vaccination rates. Our U.S. correspondent William Denzelo reports.
Citing a White House official, the Washington Post reports that President Biden is expected to make the announcement Thursday. But officials also say a policy review is still underway and plans could alter. A move to require federal employees to get a COVID-19 vaccine or face repeated testing would mark a significant shift in approach as the nation seeks to curb the spread of the virus and encourage more people to get vaccinated. Less than half the population is currently fully vaccinated.
In Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan and other government officials have received COVID-19 vaccine jabs as the country launches its inoculation campaign. President Hassan expressed confidence in the safety of vaccines and said the country will seek to attain more doses. Daniel Kijo has more from Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan took her COVID-19 vaccine jab today. Her country becomes the latest country to roll out a COVID-19 inoculation plan. On the continent, it's only Burundi and Eritrea that are yet to begin vaccinations. The Tanzania vaccine rollout was broadcasted live on national television, where the Prime Minister, Health Minister, and other high-profile government officials also got vaccinated. President Samia said she hopes citizens follow her lead and take the jab. Tanzania received 1,058,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on Saturday through the COVAX initiative.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, COVID-19 in Australia, where the latest lockdown has now been lifted in the state of Victoria, which encompasses the city of Melbourne. But restrictions are still in place in New South Wales, with Sydney still the pandemic's epicentre in Australia. More than half the country's population has been under lockdown restrictions over the last few weeks after the Delta variant hit Sydney and then spread to 4 neighbouring states. But Tom McElroy, political reporter in Canberra with the Australian Financial Review, says at least in Victoria, residents are relieved that the latest curbs have been lifted.
The state and Melbourne, the biggest city, has had 6 months of lockdowns in the last year and a half. I think there's relief among Melburnians and Victorians more broadly that the restrictions are easing. There will be some remaining restrictions for a couple of weeks, including no visitors to the home. Federally, the national government is relieved that Victoria is starting to come out of that lockdown, but Sydney and New South Wales, where there's a much tougher situation continuing, remains a real concern.
Anti-lockdown demonstrations in Melbourne and Sydney last weekend were met with a substantial police presence. Adding to the country's difficulties, the Australian government is struggling with public rejection of the AstraZeneca vaccine at a time when sufficient doses of alternatives are not available. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. Fully vaccinated travelers from the US and EU will be allowed to enter England without the need to quarantine on arrival. Star gymnast Simone Biles has confirmed she will not participate in Thursday's Olympic events, citing mental health reasons. And the White House is expected to announce that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Rebecca Foster reporting.
Interesting new ad campaign from Applebee's, which is encouraging customers to visit the restaurant ironically.
They're designed to attract young people to Applebee's by inviting them to ridicule its food service and atmosphere. Here, take a look.
What do you guys want to do?
We could go to Applebee's. No, let's seriously go to Applebee's.
Okay.
Look, guys, it's grilled.
It's just like my neighborhood restaurant, only completely geographically non-specific.
Yeah, nothing like a wild time at Applebee's, right?
Applebee's. Wouldn't it be funny to go to Applebee's?
I like
Isn't that
it.
persuasive?
Yeah.
But, they're not resting on their laurels. They're adding new menu items designed to be ridiculed outright, like the fajita cordon bleu and the chicken strip explosion.
Those sound ridiculous.
I know, but, so far this has been so successful that Applebee's is actually prepping a second series of ads aimed at customers who enjoy making fun of annoying young people who do things ironically.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you want to join the conversation. That's 603-283-6160. A surprising lack of calls tonight, considering that I'm assuming we have people watching the show for the first time or listening for the first time.
I would love to have some people call in and let's have some conversations about how you feel. Let's talk about what's on your mind.
That's the best part of this show.
Yes.
Well, I imagine the majority of people who are watching are feeling one specific way that we can't talk about on national radio, but that's at video.freetalklive.com if you're curious what we're talking about. But now we're talking about New South Wales and Australia and their COVID-19 lockdown. Their situation is terrible. A lot of them aren't even able to leave their houses. All construction has stopped. And I think it's just grocery stores that are allowed to stay open.
This is crazy. Now tell me, do you have the numbers or the stats on how many vaccinations have been given and how many people are actually sick there?
It may be within the article, but I can't just look those up.
Okay.
So it's being extended and overhauled after 177 new infections were announced on Wednesday, a record in the current outbreak. Premier Gladys, I'm just going to call her Gladys, blamed low vaccination rates. So they always blame the unvaccinated for these outbreaks.
For sure.
even though just yesterday we played a clip from someone in some government figure in Australia who was saying that we have 171 new cases and all but one of them are fully vaccinated.
Yeah, which makes no sense to me.
And if your vaccine works, why do I need to be vaccinated if your vaccine works? So are they admitting that the vaccine doesn't work? I just
they will
don't
never
get,
admit.
They have all
I
but
don't
admitted
get
it, though.
I don't get it.
I mean, they have said even if you're vaccinated, you have to put your mask back on. I mean, that's as close to an admission that your vaccine doesn't work as the government has gotten.
Exactly. Like, you can't tell me that I need to go get a vaccine when I still have to do all of the things that you're requiring those unvaccinated people to do.
There's no incentive to even get it
at all. Oh, except for you can be entered into like the $1 million lottery in some states.
Some states are also. Right? New York City is offering $100 to anyone who will get the jab.
Yeah, or a Krispy Kreme.
$100. I mean, that's really a deal right there.
You know what I heard they were doing? That they were going into this was in Worcester actually, on South Main Street. You guys probably aren't familiar with that. South Main Street in Worcester is a place where there is a lot of, let's just say, drug activity.
Okay.
And they were going around to people and they were offering them $40 to get the vaccine. So basically they were offering people to pay for a fix.
Yep, that's exactly
so
it.
they could to get them to get the vaccine.
And
they know addicts are going to do that because
That's it.
they're probably desperate and they might not have the money
my
to
man
do
got
it.
hit for $40. I'll go do it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to get it like, more than once too. And it seems like the state just wants to put their numbers up.
It is curious. I can't recall any other vaccine in my lifetime where they had to actually incentivize people to go and get it.
Never.
I mean, if the vaccine worked, it would seem like that would be enough.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to blackmail people and bribe them to get it if it worked and it was this miracle vaccination.
But even if it did work, and even if it had no side effects whatsoever, I still wouldn't get the stupid thing.
No way.
The flu vaccine works relatively well. I mean, I'm not one of those who thinks it does nothing, but I don't get vaccinated against the flu.
I was getting ready to ask you if you got it.
No, of course not. I'm young
and you also
healthy.
have antibodies because you've had COVID. So why would you get it?
Exactly.
Now, how many times have you had the flu?
It.
I don't know. Maybe 5 or 6 throughout my lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. In your lifetime. So it's not like it's something that you have to worry about every year. Oh, I'm going to get the flu.
No, I've gotten COVID exactly once, as far as I know, and it sucked.
And no
for
vaccine.
about a day.
Yep.
But people who get the vaccine, they complain about symptoms that last for several days and are significantly more intense than anything I experienced. And I see no reason why I should, even if I didn't have COVID-19, though, I still wouldn't get the vaccine because there's no evidence to suggest that it's a threat to me.
Yeah.
Premier Gladys is blaming low vaccination rates as she announced the current stay-at-home orders would be extended for 4 weeks until midnight on Saturday, August the 28th. But there will be changes, including a 10-kilometer restriction on shopping, a pathway for Year 12 students to return to classrooms from August the 16th, construction reopening in some settings. Okay, so that's loosening up a bit. A support bubble for single people living alone, and a new financial support package for businesses and individuals because, of course, they want to give out more money. The local governments of these places have also joined a growing list of areas subjected to an authorized workers order. It means only authorized workers in these areas may leave their LGA, their local government area, for work. The restrictions already apply to Fairfield. It lists some Australian towns that won't mean anything to anyone who's not in Australia. All authorized workers in Canterbury Bankstown must get COVID-19 tests every 3 days, regardless of symptoms, as part of a surveillance program.
So now the COVID vaccine or the COVID test, do they still stick that thing up your nose?
I don't know.
Yep. So that was the PCR test as far as I know. And they were saying that now, at least the U.S. government, because people are getting it, vaccinated people are testing positive for COVID now because of the PCR test. So now they're like, oh, nope, they must not be working. And it's like, no, they haven't been working the entire time. We've had so many false positives. But they also have a test where you spit in like a little tube and you just spit 5 mLs of spit in there, which is a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. I had to do it and I was there for like 20 minutes trying to fill this thing up. It was awful. But yeah, so those are the 2 ones that I know of.
I wondered about that.
The PCR test was thrown out because they discovered that it can't tell the difference between the flu and COVID-19.
Wow.
Okay,
that
and
would
that's
be
the one that you put in your nose.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the nasopharyngeal swab. They stick it way up there.
And that would explain why the flu seemed to just disappear
And
last year.
I'm right that I read an article at one time that they did the PCR is what you called it?
Yeah.
The test, and that they went too far in somebody and there was like brain damage to a person.
Yep. And there's also been theories that they're putting, I mean, this is like a way out there theory. I don't know if I believe this, but I've heard some people say that they're theorizing that they're actually putting COVID on the tip of the Q-tip, and that it's giving people.
That's crazy.
I mean, I had to get tests every week for school, and I only tested positive once, and I'm pretty sure I actually had it, but I'd probably taken like 50 COVID tests, and I never tested positive until that one
and
time.
they stuck it up your nose every time.
Yep. Well, I was actually the one administering it.
Okay.
So it wasn't
because
as
you were
traumatic.
in school, but normally wouldn't it be like a nurse or a doctor giving you the test?
So of the 177 new cases on Wednesday, 46 were infectious in the community, while 22 were in isolation for only part of their infectious period. The isolation status, 62 cases, remains under investigation. They just forgot a word. The isolation status of 62 cases remains under investigation. There was also a new death recorded, a new death of the 177 new cases. A woman in her 90s who succumbed to the virus at Liverpool Hospital. It's the 11th fatality recorded since the current outbreak began last month. Health authorities confirmed the woman had not been vaccinated. Well, there's no reason to believe the vaccine would have really helped her.
I mean,
either.
she's in her 90s. She's had probably a pretty fulfilled life. You know, she's expecting to go out at any time. I'm not saying that people that are older, that are elders should die or that they should go out. But at some point, you know that today could be your last day. If you're like 95, tomorrow you could not wake up.
Yeah, it doesn't specify her exact age, but anyone over their 90s, I mean,
every day is lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
Normally, they don't give if somebody has an immune condition. So if they have a weakened immune system, or if they're really elderly, or if they're sick, normally you can't get most vaccinations. So it was weird that with the COVID vaccination that they were just giving it to everybody. And even sometimes people would have a reaction to the first dose. And when they came back to get the second dose, they were like, oh, well, we're just going to watch you for 30 minutes this time just to like see if you like die or seize or anything.
Thank you so much. I feel safer.
But people were still coming back to get it.
Yes, they were, which baffled me. If you had a reaction like that or you had some kind of, debilitating thing happen during that vaccine, why go back to the second
it's like,
dose?
okay, we established that you're allergic to it. Let's not do that anymore.
Exactly.
I remember seeing a news story of a woman who was waiting in line and she saw someone have to get wheeled away on a stretcher.
And she was like, oh, sign me up.
Yeah, she didn't get out of line. No, thank you. I'm good. I want to get wheeled out of here. But what do you think? 603-283-6160. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you want to join the discussion. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria,
Nikki, and Angie.
And there's nothing in particular. I thought there may be, but no, there's no.
There's no phone calls yet?
We do have a phone call, actually, but I was just killing time to build up the dump button until then. I mean,
perfect.
We know who this person is, and he's not going to swear on the radio anyway. But
You just have to be prepared.
It's a good thing for me to be in the habit of waiting until we can safely and easily take the call. But that's more than enough time. We've actually got Joa calling from here.
Nice,
in New Hampshire.
Joa, welcome.
Joa, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
What's on your mind tonight?
I just want to say, thank you for letting your hair down, so to speak. And, and I wish more people would call in. But I appreciate you guys. But, Nikki, you had mentioned something about Worcester and the masks and stuff. And, I just want to mention that I was denied access to the court when I had a pretrial. And because I wasn't wearing a mask, even though I was exempt from their laws. And then recently I went down to...
So how did they handle that? Because you were there, you were the defendant in that case, presumably. You were there for pretrial.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't let you in because you weren't wearing a mask. So what happened next?
Well, they were going to go check with the judge and everything like that. And then they came back out of the courthouse building and told me that, no, we're going to do it on Zoom instead. I drove 3.5 hours to get there.
Don't you have to consent to that?
I didn't have any choice.
I thought you had to consent to have a video hearing.
Not anymore, I guess.
thought so as well, or they had to file for a continuance or something like that ahead of time prior to the pretrial.
After COVID, they've just been doing whatever they want.
Well, I know when I was in jail, in order to authorize the detention hearing via Zoom, I had to actually sign off and say, yes, I'm allowing this. Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
This was a last minute decision because I was already, I already drove there, and it's I paid for parking, I did all these things, and it's just ridiculous. But recently, I went down to Rhode Island for a friend's arraignment, and they let me in without a mask. I just basically told them I was exempt. I flashed my inhaler, and they let me in. So
nice.
And yes, go ahead.
No, I think that's great. I think that they realized that you were human and that you had an exemption, so they let you come in.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that worked out. Joe, thank you so much tonight for the call. It's always good to hear people pushing back against the state and being successful.
Yeah, for
sure. I'm not surprised he had that experience at the Worcester courthouse at all.
No, Mass is not. I don't want to be in Mass or Connecticut or Rhode Island right now if I have any choice in the matter.
No way.
No.
So Miss Gladys said that Wednesday's announcement regarding the 4-week extension of the lockdown in New South Wales would not be what Sydney-siders wanted to hear. I guess that's people who live in Sydney. Please know I'm as upset and frustrated as you that we weren't able to get the case numbers where we would like to, she said. I sincerely doubt she's upset and frustrated. She may be frustrated, but she's not upset.
No way.
She's a tyrant and she's enjoying the power that she has. Chief Health Officer Carrie Chance said the key driver of new infections remained critical workplaces. Police compliance checks will be ramping up, and the Premier encouraged anyone to report those doing the wrong thing. Don't be a snitch. Anyone listening in Australia, leave your neighbors alone. They're not hurting you. And even if you're mad that you're sitting in your home being a good little serf and wearing your mask even though you're by yourself or whatever it is that they're telling you to do this week, and you're upset because you see your neighbor leaving his house, he's still not a threat to you. Mind your own business.
Maybe that should give you some inspiration to stop hiding in your house and start living your life.
But have you noticed that people who wear masks now and they wear them like in their car and just walking around, that even if they're not on their face, it's like a fashion thing now to wear them on their chin or over their throat?
Yeah, I noticed
They're like,
that.
yeah, I got my mask on.
Yeah, but it's like, what is it doing as a chin strap?
Exactly.
We talked about a woman last night who actually had, she still wears a mask at work even though she's fully vaccinated. And the mask says something like, yes, I'm fully vaccinated, but I'm not ready to trust you yet.
That's so stupid. If you have your vaccine, you don't have to trust me. You trust yourself in that vaccine.
Well, if the vaccine worked, that would certainly be the case. But, they have a hard time saying that, okay, we clearly backed the wrong horse on this one and natural immunity was probably the way to go because it doesn't seem that this vaccine is actually doing anything. I mean, if the vaccine worked, there would be no need to wear the mask.
No, and they wouldn't say that now you need 2 or 3 masks in order to be protected against it.
Have they gone back to 2?
The last I heard it was that, we should probably wear 2 in order to not get it.
Okay, I think they backpedaled on that.
That's good.
Well, plenty of people were wearing 2 masks.
I know they were. And, the memes that they had like the whole
3.
box on them. I love those.
Yeah.
That was great.
Just strap the entire box to your face.
That was wonderful. I was like, oh, this is wonderful.
I never saw that, but I wish I had.
It was pretty comical.
So after midnight tonight, people can only shop for essential goods within their local governmental authority or within 10 kilometers from their home. The only exception to this is if the item is not available locally. This rule was modeled on the restrictions around exercising, which continue to apply. A 2-week hiatus on construction in Greater Sydney and its surroundings is set to end this Saturday, but there are major restrictions still in place. It's still banned in 8 local governmental authorities. Construction workers from those areas will not be allowed to leave for work. Outside those areas, construction in non-occupied settings will be permitted, but the number of workers on site will be capped at 1 per 4 square meters. So you have to actually measure your workspace and figure out how many workers you are allotted.
Joe, I need help hanging this. Can you hold this from over there? I mean, really, this makes no sense to me. And it's construction. So these guys are inhaling all kinds of different things.
Yep.
It's not like this is the cleanest, safest job anyway.
Tradies and whatever a tradie is and cleaners will be able to work on occupied construction sites as long as they don't have contact with residents. Deputy Premier John Barilaro said people could still be home while tradies, it would be nice if they defined that term.
Probably somebody in a trade, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would
like
think
a
so.
carpenter.
Like a house cleaner would be a trade, or like a carpenter would be a trade.
Electrician, stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
So Year 12 students will return to face-to-face learning on August the 16th, but under strict protocols, a Pfizer vaccination program will be launched for Year 12 students in the 8 LGAs of concern, with doses being redirected from regional New South Wales. We don't want students going face-to-face learning, getting the virus, and taking it home to their families. The NSW government, that's the New South Wales government, is also working to introduce rapid antigen testing for Year 12 students to mitigate against outbreaks. Now, is that the instant test?
I don't know.
It sounds like it.
All other students will continue remote learning for the next 4 weeks. Ms. Gladys foreshadowed further financial support for New South Wales residents and businesses. The government will expand its Job Saver program, which provides weekly payments for businesses suffering a downturn of 30% or more. I imagine a lot of them are close to 100% downturn.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The threshold for eligible businesses will lift from $50 million to $250 million. That will double the number of eligible businesses to $460,000. The maximum weekly payment to a business will increase from $10,000 to $100,000. So It's a good thing the world doesn't use the Australian dollar as its reserve currency, because New South Wales is about to inflate the crap out of it.
Wow.
More coming up here about this, because there's a special singles bubble included in this nonsense, and we're going to talk about it. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Fully vaccinated travelers from the U.S. and EU will be allowed to enter England without the need to quarantine on arrival. The changes were announced by the UK Transport Secretary and come into force next week. John Beaver has the latest.
Up to now, only those vaccinated in the UK are recognised by the increasingly complex travel rules here. It means for those fully vaccinated, there's no need to quarantine when returning from more than 100 countries on the green and amber travel list. From the 4th of August, those rules will also apply to people vaccinated in the United States and European Union. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said the move will reunite people living in the US and European countries with their family and friends in the UK.
Star American gymnast Simone Biles has confirmed she is dropping out of Thursday's individual events at the Tokyo Olympics following her unexpected withdrawal from the team competition on Tuesday. Biles, who's often called the greatest gymnast of all time, says she needs to prioritize her mental health over the Games. She was expected to take gold in many of this week's events. The White House is expected to announce that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. This comes as the U.S. is seeing a rise in coronavirus cases and experiencing sluggish vaccination rates. Our U.S. correspondent William Denzelo reports.
Citing a White House official, The Washington Post reports that President Biden is expected to make the announcement Thursday. But officials also say a policy review is still underway and plans could alter. A move to require federal employees to get a COVID-19 vaccine or face repeated testing would mark a significant shift in approach as the nation seeks to curb the spread of the virus and encourage more people to get vaccinated. Less than half the population is currently fully vaccinated.
In Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan and other government officials have received COVID-19 vaccine jabs as the country launches its inoculation campaign. President Hassan expressed confidence in the safety of vaccines and said the country will seek to attain more doses. Daniel Kijo has more from Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan took her COVID-19 vaccine jab today. Her country becomes the latest country to roll out a COVID-19 inoculation plan. On the continent, it's only Burundi and Eritrea that are yet to begin vaccinations. The Tanzania vaccine rollout was broadcasted live on national television, where the Prime Minister, Health Minister, and other high-profile government officials also got vaccinated. President Samia said she hopes citizens follow her lead and take the jab. Tanzania received 1,058,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on Saturday through the COVAX initiative.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join the discussion, 603-283-6160. That's the call line if you want to talk with us, 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's Aria,
Nikki, and Angie.
And if you want to see what makes tonight a special episode, head on over to video.freetalklive.com because that's the only place where you can find what's actually happening in the studio tonight. And that's because the other mainstream video platforms, they don't care a whole lot for Free Talk Live in the first place. But when we start doing things that we know are going to antagonize them, they like us even less, which makes sense. But even if we weren't doing anything to antagonize them, they still didn't like us. I mean,
they love their censorship.
Oh, yeah.
They absolutely do. And that's why Odyssey is so important. You can find it at video.freetalklive.com. That's where we're streaming tonight's actual in-studio show because we can't be censored there. And we value that here on Free Talk Live. And if you don't want people to be censored, you should check out Odyssey. That's video.freetalklive.com. Let's go to the phones. We've got Surf Daddy calling from California. Surf Daddy, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's like the 70s all over again.
I love it.
I'm watching you guys on Odyssey. Great marketing, Ian. Anyway, I called in to... I live in a county north of Los Angeles County, and my two older boys are both firefighters, and there's a state mandate coming down, or nearly has come down, that all state employees, even though they work for the county, they're paid by the state.
Is this going to include firefighters?
It sounds like it. But
okay,
we're not 100% sure yet, but they're forming groups. There's resistance.
Now, what are they going to require of them?
Well, the state, our illustrious governor has required or mandated all state employees must be vaccinated. What exactly that means, I haven't read into it.
You said that there's some resistance, some pushing back. So the firefighters themselves are saying, hey, no, this is not cool. We're not going to do that.
Going to do it.
I think that's great. Are they prepared that are they prepared to not be there for fires or be there as a firefighter if they do not back down?
No, they didn't state.
Aren't there a lot of wildfires in California right now? Aren't there a lot of wildfires in California right now?
This is California. It's summertime. Most of them are up north in the forest areas.
But so they literally can't afford to get rid of the firefighters, it sounds like.
No way.
So it sounds like if the firefighters say no, they actually have the leverage here to hold that position.
One of my boys was with the shots, the hot shots, and traveled all over and did a lot of the fires up north. There's no way. He's been on some of these, just the craziest fires, hundreds or even thousands of homes going up in some of these massive fires that we have here. So if these guys stick to their guns like I'm hoping, or like it sounds like they're going to, this may be one of those things that tilts things in the right direction. That there's no need for 20-something guys that are the most fit human beings on earth. The fitness these guys have to train, the training they go through. There's this virus is of no threat to them, but the vaccine is. The vaccine is, and they know it. They see
absolutely,
it
yes.
Well, thank you for the. Go ahead.
A lot of these guys serve time on ambulances and that EMTs, paramedics, and they're seeing it. They're seeing the people that will have blood clots, the people that have shingles, all these things that are happening from the vaccine. They're not fools. They're seeing it firsthand, and they're not going to do it. They're just straight up not going to do it.
I think that's great. I support them completely, and I hope that they stick to it and that they don't let anyone force them into getting a vaccine that they don't want or they don't need.
Yeah.
I want to see.
I'm proud of them. Proud of them.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you so much for the call tonight. I want to see them hold their ground as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I'm so curious about these side effects that people are experiencing, presumably as a result of the vaccine. But of course, we have no way of really identifying that. And
No.
I don't expect any of these hospitals or doctors to actually, look at the numbers and see how many of our blood clot patients are actually vaccinated.
Well, they're not going to take any responsibility for it. So they're not going to go back and kind of look at those numbers because they don't want somebody to say, oh, look, every single one of these new people who came in who weren't patients before got the vaccine and now they're patients.
And you also have to realize a lot of these people are kind of buying into that mainstream narrative. So they kind of have the blindfold on, right? And I've noticed that a lot of the people who are more open-minded that work in healthcare, they're the ones that are looking for these connections. They're the ones that are looking for the coincidences, so to speak. They're the ones who are looking for the connections. And once you start following these patterns, it's undeniable that all of these reactions are in direct correlation from people getting the vaccine. But those people who still are watching the news, who are buying into this mainstream narrative, who are hardcore statists, and they just believe so much, and they're worshiping the state and they're worshiping Anthony Fauci, they have the blindfold on and they're not looking for those connections. They're not looking for anything. They're kind of just living life, going through the motions and just believing it what they're taught, and they're not thinking for themselves and they're not looking at statistics and data. And
well, they're worshiping what they believe to be science, right? And that's the part that really bugs me about this, is because they think, oh, well, the vaccine's perfectly safe. It's proven science.
But that's not the case.
And once they believe that, they won't allow any amount of evidence to change their mind. They've formed their belief, and that's the belief they're going to stick with, regardless of the evidence that comes. And that's not science.
But if they don't see it on the mainstream news or the mainstream media, or they don't read it online on like CNN or Fox News or something like that, they're not going to believe it regardless. Even if there's proof, they're going to say, oh, well, if it was true or if it was really the case, I would have known about it. They would have said it on the news.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it just blows my mind that these are like oftentimes very intelligent people. They're like great healthcare workers. They should know better.
Yeah.
But they are just,
just doing their job.
And we've had a lot of scary times in healthcare. We've had a lot of, short staffing. It's been really stressful. And I think people are just so afraid of what's going on, and they're living in fear, and they're just afraid to question. And they think that if they start to question things, that they're, bad in some way, and that they don't care for their patients, or, something like people are kind of being fed all of these guilt trips. So they get sucked into that, and it just kind of makes them unable to look at what's going on around them and think for themselves.
Now, Nikki, you work in healthcare. So have you seen any of your colleagues or any of the doctors that you work with, either lose their job or quit their job over what's going on?
No, I'm actually the loudest person.
Okay.
People amongst ourselves in the unit, and like my friends, we talk about this type of stuff openly, and we're pretty much on the same page, the majority of people that I work with, but nobody's saying anything. They don't post stuff on Facebook, really. I'm the only one that is all over Instagram, all over Facebook, on Free Talk Live, on national radio saying this stuff, because I'm not afraid.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of people getting hurt. I'm afraid of people losing the autonomy over their own body. I'm afraid of people not having informed consent and feeling pressured into getting medical procedures and these vaccinations, in air quotes, that they might have otherwise not gotten. And getting these things that have not been properly tested, and people are getting hurt, and I'm seeing it day after day, and it's horrifying what is going on right now, and I cannot in good conscience stay quiet, and that's why I'm speaking up the way I am.
When we come back, I'd like to know your thoughts on children and the vaccine.
Oh yeah, I have a lot to say about that.
Well, you mentioned them not challenging it. Well, it's just like any other cult. Once they're invested in that belief system, they don't want to challenge any aspect of it because the entire thing, their entire worldview will unravel before their eyes, and they're not prepared to deal with that. What are your thoughts? 603-283-6160. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the discussion, that's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria,
Nikki, and Angie.
And you know, Free Talk Live has done a large number of things over the last several months in order to decentralize the show and to protect ourselves from censorship from big tech companies. One of those things is our chat server, which you can find at matrix.freetalklive.com. Matrix is a decentralized, well, mostly decentralized. It's federated. The details of how it works and what it does aren't really that important. Just know that it means that Facebook can't come along and say, you can no longer chat here. And this was largely something that we were working on before Discord kicked us off of their platform, but that's basically what it is. It's a competitor to Discord that is federated, and we have our own Mastodon server running that you can find at chat.freetalklive.com or matrix.lrn.fm. It's a wonder I'm able to keep any of these things straight in my head. But it is chat.freetalklive.com. Let's go to the phones. We've got El, you're on Free Talk Live.
That's okay. El Conejo.
El Conejo.
Perfect, thanks.
I'm calling in to bust through some of the COVID propaganda. There's a couple of points. One, we've all heard the vaccine is 95% effective and blah, blah, blah. Well, I called in the other day about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and the hundreds of peer-reviewed studies that prove that they murdered hundreds of thousands of people. This time the challenge is for people to go to Odyssey and search relative risk reduction versus absolute risk reduction. So the vaccines
do that after the show, though. If you want to get to Odyssey during the show, go to video.freetalklive.com.
Can you tell me what the difference is?
Yeah, so relative risk. So they claim vaccines are 95% effective, but what they're claiming is the relative risk reduction number, which basically you can think of that as if you've got 1 out of 1 million people who get struck by lightning one year, and the following year there's 2 out of 1 million people who are struck by lightning. You can say with relative numbers that is 100% increase.
Okay.
So that sounds fishy, right?
Right. But
Because
I mean,
if
it's true. It's 100% increase, right? Like it's true.
Yes.
Well,
2 is a 100% increase from 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So follow with me. If it's 1 in 100,000 one year and it's 2 in 100,000 the following year, it's also 100% increase.
Right.
So these are the games
how does
they're
this
playing.
relate to the 95% effectiveness of the vaccine?
So what they're talking about is the relative risk reduction. In reality, what we should be looking at is the absolute risk reduction, which if you break it down, that's basically what are my odds, how much do my odds increase if I get this virus that I might die from it, which actually that 95%, when you go to absolute risk reduction numbers, drops down to about 1.5%. So you increase your survivability by 1.5%, which is basically statistically insignificant. It's nothing.
Right.
And that's if
well,
you're
the number of deaths caused by COVID-19 is statistically insignificant as well, but those deaths still certainly matter to the people who they affected, right? And I can't blame someone for being scared of something that has a 1.5% chance of killing them, or or wanting to have a 1.5% reduction in their chance of dying from this thing. To me, it's a much more personalized decision than that. It's looking at the effects of COVID-19, who it tends to affect worst, whether or not it's going to cause me any sort of serious harm, versus the vaccine, which I ask the same questions about, and already having had COVID-19, to me, it's a no-brainer. The relative risk levels between the two things, the risk with the vaccine is substantially higher than just doing nothing.
Right.
So
thank you for the No, go ahead.
Sorry. They're playing on the perception that if you get the vaccine, you increase your odds of surviving 95%, and that is absolutely not the case.
Well, I think what they're saying, they don't say anything about survivability. They say it protects you 95% of the time from COVID-19.
Well, one more important point about this.
Well, I think your point is wrong. I don't think that's what they're saying at all.
Well, they don't put it in context at all. So the 95% just sounds like a big, impressive number. But the thing is, on the emergency use authorization applications, that is the 12-week period. For the 24-week period, it is literally statistically insignificant. The vaccines do nothing. And then,
well, they certainly don't appear to, because people who have been vaccinated are still catching COVID-19. Thank you tonight, El Conejo, for the call. It's definitely an interesting concept, and one that someone should look into later on Odyssey. I think he called it
absolute
risk reduction versus relative risk reduction. It sounds like an interesting subject, and I love that kind of math because it's fascinating and interesting to me how easily numbers can be manipulated to essentially say whatever you want them to say if you phrase them in the right way. But let's keep going with the phones. We got Greg calling from New York. Greg, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi. I called in the other day. I want to continue with the discussion that El Conejo was just talking about and talk about some other things where I think capitalism leads to and these kinds of things. Look at ivermectin, a drug that is relatively safe, been used for decades around the world, yet there are no studies in the United States that are of any significance. There are studies around the world. It killed 95% of the virus, 99.9%, I should say, in vitro, outside of humans. And you would think that you might want to investigate inside, but there's no profit motive. There's no reason for these companies to do so. They'd rather, look at something like Remdesivir, basically.
Now, I need some context here. These medicines that you're throwing out, are they supposed to treat COVID-19?
Well,
or is this just some?
Not designed for it. They weren't designed for it. It just happens to be that they block the replication of the virus in the cells. The way that
so the answer would have been yes.
Yeah, they've been working.
Okay.
So the thing is, though, that under a system where people invest in a drug first and they need profits later, like with Pfizer, with Johnson & Johnson, the system basically says you then must own and enforce a monopoly on these ideas, because then otherwise free riders will just take your ideas and run with them. In a society where people are motivated by profit off of drug research, you don't investigate things like ivermectin, but instead you lobby the government to protect your patents, your so-called intellectual property, and that's how you get to the system that we have today.
Yes, but that's because of government intervention. That's not because of the free market.
But the free market is what I'm trying to say, calls for this government intervention to, quote, protect private property.
I'm missing your point there.
I don't understand that at all.
I don't know how the free market could possibly call for government intervention.
To protect private property.
To protect private property. So normally
intellectual property is nonsense, and it stands it stands directly against actual private property rights. Now, take for example a music CD that I purchased. That's my physical property. I own it. I can do whatever I want with it. If I have a blank CD and I make a copy, I own the CD I'm copying. Doesn't matter. It's still legal. My rights to use and access and modify my physical property is directly challenged by intellectual property.
Right.
There is no advocate of the free market that stands for intellectual property because it violates private property rights.
Well, many libertarians take the opposite view, like Ayn Rand and people like that, objectivists, for example. They believe strongly that this is the product of man's mind, is in fact their property. So they're.
I don't care what Rand has to say about it.
Okay, but my point
if someone can demonstrate to me how intellectual property is not a violation of private property rights, I'm more than willing to listen to their argument, 603-283-6160, but saying, oh, well, Rand believed this. Okay, well, Rand was wrong.
Not just Rand. There are many libertarians believe one way, and there are libertarians believe the other way. But my point
they're wrong.
Is independent. But here's my point, is that if you structure drug research on the basis of competition, then you by necessity will have to employ some mechanism to make sure that the public at large and scientists at large do not get wind of your discovery. Because if they do, well, someone like Jonas Salk made nothing off the polio vaccine. He just gave it away. And people who want to recoup their investment need a mechanism to restrict others from using the R&D which they paid for.
Well, if it's not valuable enough for people to pay for it without the government, granting them a monopoly right to produce it, then they need to become better business people, not involve the government. Thank you for the Greg, thank you for the call tonight. Intellectual property, though, it's not going to solve any problems, and it's only going to create more. And again, stands right against private property rights. But maybe other people disagree on that. 603-283-6160. You're welcome to change my mind. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Los Angeles, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Senate has voted to begin considering a bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure bill. The move is a victory for President Joe Biden, who has been touting the infrastructure plan for months.
You may have heard that in Washington now, just on the phone, looks like we reached a bipartisan agreement on infrastructure, fancy word for bridges, roads.
A week earlier, Senate Republicans had unanimously blocked allowing the bill to move forward. This time, the bill received support from 17 Republicans. The bill proposes around $550 billion for roads, bridges, and other transit projects. It was a mixed close for U.S. markets Wednesday as the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged. But some strong quarterly earnings helped give Boeing and Alphabet a boost during trading hours. FSN's William Denzilo reports from New York.
Speaking at the conclusion of the Federal Reserve's two-day policy meeting, Jerome Powell announced that further economic improvement was required before raising interest rates. The Fed chair announced that the economy was strengthening despite the concern of rising COVID-19 cases, but was still far from its targets when it comes to employment and inflation. The Dow Jones closed down 0.4%, the S&P was largely flat, and the Nasdaq closed up 0.7%. In earnings news, Alphabet jumped more than 3% after posting a 69% bump in advertising revenue. Boeing closed up more than 4% after posting its first quarterly profits since 2019. William Denzilo, New York.
Tanzania's president and other government officials have received their COVID-19 vaccine shots at the launch of the country's inoculation campaign. Our correspondent Daniel Kijo has more.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan took her COVID-19 vaccine jab today. Her country becomes the latest country to roll out a COVID-19 inoculation plan. On the continent, it's only Burundi and Eritrea that are yet to begin vaccinations. The Tanzania vaccine rollout was broadcasted live on national television, where the Prime Minister, Health Minister, and other high-profile government officials also got vaccinated. President Samia said she hopes citizens follow her lead and take the jab once it's made readily available. Tanzania received 1,058,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on Saturday through the COVAX initiative. The government says it is planning to import 5 other vaccines from other sources. Daniel Kijo, Dar es Salaam.
U.S. President Biden is expected to announce Thursday that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. This comes as the U.S. is seeing a rise in coronavirus cases and sluggish vaccination rates. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, COVID-19 in Australia, where the latest lockdown has now been lifted in the state of Victoria, which encompasses the city of Melbourne. But restrictions are still in place in New South Wales, with Sydney still the pandemic's epicentre in Australia. More than half the country's population has been under lockdown restrictions over the last few weeks after the Delta variant hit Sydney and then spread to 4 neighbouring states. But Tom McElroy, political reporter in Canberra with the Australian Financial Review, says at least in Victoria, residents are relieved that the latest curbs have been lifted.
The state and Melbourne, the biggest city, has had 6 months of lockdowns in the last year and a half. I think there's relief among Melburnians and Victorians more broadly that the restrictions are easing. There will be some remaining restrictions for a couple of weeks, including no visitors to the home. Federally, the national government is relieved that Victoria is starting to come out of that lockdown, but Sydney and New South Wales, where there's a much tougher situation continuing, remains a real concern.
Anti-lockdown demonstrations in Melbourne and Sydney last weekend were met with a substantial police presence. Adding to the country's difficulties, the Australian government is struggling with public rejection of the AstraZeneca vaccine at a time when sufficient doses of alternatives are not available. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The U.S. Senate has voted to begin considering a bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure bill, a victory for President Biden. A mixed close for U.S. markets as the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged. And President Biden is expected to announce Thursday that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer.
Well, today was an historic occasion in Pennington.
That's right, Diane. The entire town turned out to honor Paul Webster, the area's one gay man, with Pennington's first ever Gay Pride Parade. Paul, a 33-year-old hardware store owner, was too shy to ask for a parade, but that didn't stop almost 2,000 residents from showing their support for his homosexuality. Mayor Sue Hallinan organized the parade and even chipped in some of her own money to pay for decorations.
Well, I was channel surfing one day and I came across a program about the Gay Pride. Next time I went to the hardware store, I said, Paul, we're going to throw you a parade. And he just said, oh, please don't do that. I don't want that. I beg you. He just didn't want us to go to the trouble.
He doesn't want to ride on the penis float. He gets motion sickness, so we're going to have him hold the reins instead. And Penningtonians have already decided on a fairy tale theme for next year's parade.
Oh, that'll be great.
And if Paul has a boyfriend, they can both be dressed up as kings.
Terrific idea.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the discussion with us here tonight, that's 603-283-6160. And as people watching at video.freetalklive.com have noticed, there is no kitty camera tonight. Realistically, tonight, all the cameras are kitty cameras because she
or
is...
titty cameras.
Well, yes, I was going to get into that. And that's the reason that there is no kitty camera tonight. It seemed like it made more sense to set up the webcams differently.
Yes, but she has made herself known. Like she has been up on the table. She's like, meow.
And for the people, because a lot of people are saying this, we're getting a lot of reports about it saying that the cams appear to have frozen or whatever. They haven't. You need to refresh your page. Odyssey posted earlier today that, you know, they weren't ready to handle the volume of videos and stuff that they are currently dealing with. So they did some upgrades, and presumably they're still working on it. But Odyssey has grown substantially over the last several months, and you can find out why at video.freetalklive.com because the big tech platforms, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, they would never allow tonight's show to go on. We would have been axed there. I actually thought we were axed because I have the stream here pulled up because we were receiving reports about things not working, and sure enough, it just showed this little white circle there, and everything was frozen. Refresh the page, and it's been working fine. So they are still having some issues. Check it out, video.freetalklive.com. We're loving it. Let's go to the phones. We've got Amazing Audits on the line from Colorado. Amazing Audits, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, Ian. Thank you for having me tonight. How are you doing?
Ian's not on the show tonight, but as I understand it, he's well. Tonight is Aria, Angie, and Nikki.
Aria, Angie, and Nikki. Thank you guys for having me on. I wanted to call tonight. I don't know if you guys have seen the video in Aurora. Happened a couple days ago, 25th or something like that. These officers, they seen a suspect, I guess, or they seen a person that they suspected had a warrant. And they went to apprehend him, and when the officer apprehended him at gunpoint, he pistol whipped him like 15 times. He beat him savagely. Yeah.
I've heard about it, but it's not the kind of video I want to watch.
No, but I read the article about it.
I'm not squeamish. I watch a lot of horror movies, so I'm more than capable of handling that level of gore, but this isn't fiction. This really happened, and I don't want to watch it.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Anyways,
but it sounds horrific.
I'm not encouraging anybody to watch the video, but what I do want to say while I have a chance on your show is that these officers, I don't believe that if someone like me was recording with their cell phone or their personal camera, I don't believe the officers would have conducted their behavior in that manner at all. I don't believe they would have hurt the
I
man.
agree with you on that one. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't think that officers care a lot of times who's recording or what's happening because they know in reality they're not going to lose their job, and the worst case they're going to get like a slap on the wrist or suspended, and they're still going to have pay. They're still going to go home and sit there for however long and still collect their paycheck.
I think they definitely do act differently though when there are people recording and even just people there, like when people are cop blocking, for example, when there are people around watching what they're doing and they are kind of held to a higher standard of accountability. I think they definitely do act a little differently.
Well, Amazing Otis, you said there's video of this incident. Where did the video come from?
That's a good question. I believe it was actually body cam footage. So that's
and they released it.
One that we get to see the body cam footage.
I have to agree with Angie on this one. I tend to think that a cop who is not bothered by, the fact that the body cam is recording what he's doing is not going to be bothered by, someone else recording what he's doing.
I mean, there are so many things that happen nowadays that police officers are involved in that is brutality, and they know that people have their phones with them all the time.
So and that never I make 2 points in conclusion before I gotta go. So I do this a lot. And a lot of people, I record police, I'm an auditor, and that's why I called in. I wanted to say that everyone gets a chance once a week at least. Man, keep a camera in your trunk or just use your cell phone. Stay at a safe distance. Don't involve yourself, but record a traffic stop because you can save someone's life. And if more people did it, if someone was there that day, they would have conducted themselves in a much more honorable manner.
I would suggest that before anyone does this, they go online and they watch, cop block videos.
Mm-hmm.
That way they know what to say, how to say it, and what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, because some cops will get aggressive towards you. Yes. I mean, it's not like they're just going to say,
my advice is to maintain a distance at which you're so safe that there is no verbal interaction, and so therefore nobody can get their ego hurt or try to touch you because you're so far away that they really have no business talking to you.
Yeah, well, you're going to need a camera with good zoom.
Yeah, for sure.
That's true. That's true. Or even, I'll be honest, even if you just had a camera that didn't work, a cell phone that didn't turn on, if they just think someone is there watching, and it brings me to my next point that I wanted to say. I was in jail because of my job. I recorded the police in Las Vegas, and there's some pretty bad tyrants. They ended up taking me to jail. But while I was in there, I remember clearly one of the detention officers saying one day, somebody asked him for a second meal, and he said, "I don't want to be on the news." And so I think that's
asked for
kind of at the basis of it. If they think that they conduct themselves in this day of cancel culture and stuff, if they conduct themselves in a way that could get them on the news, they'll probably try to avoid that.
Hold on, you got to run that story by me again, because
it was an inmate that asked for a second meal?
Yeah, another inmate. Well, you know, when guys go into jail, some of them are just off the streets and they're really, really hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And the meals were really small anyways. They were starving us bad. And one of the guys had asked for a second one because he didn't get enough food. And he said there was only enough. You know, they count them out and they send enough for everyone. And if you gave him one, then another guy would go short.
I know, but why did the cop say, I don't want to get on the news? I mean, the guy was in jail. It's not like he was...
If he shorted, if it was found out that he shorted an inmate a tray,
so if he gave a second meal, then
that's like
I
one
understand.
thing you can't do is like deny an inmate a meal, you know what I mean, and a shower. Those are two things you got to give them.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, thank you so much for the call tonight. I definitely am a fan of...
guys.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks, you as well. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Okay, that's why you were still talking. So, yeah, I'm definitely a fan of cop blocking. But, you know, it can be risky. So
it can, yeah.
Someone should know what they're getting into. And I don't agree that you have to stay so far back that you won't be able to record audio of this interaction.
Which is important.
Yes. If you're so far back that you can't have any verbal interaction with police. But you should know how close you can get to the scene.
And what you should say and what you shouldn't say. Those are important.
In general, don't answer questions.
Exactly. There are some people that are Free Talk Live hosts, like Joa, for instance, who does this cop blocks on a regular basis. So if you have questions or you have like concerns about it or you're worried, then call in one night while he's here and ask him questions and say, hey, if I'm going to do this, what can you tell me to do and not to do?
Yeah, he would be a great person to ask. Absolutely.
And not everyone appreciates it. We did some cop blocking at a nightcap once. When the police pulled over someone for forgetting to turn on their headlights. And this is Keene. Keene is very well lit on Main Street. It's very easy to drive down Main Street at night and not realize your headlights aren't on. So they pulled the person over. They ended up arresting both the driver and the passenger and having their vehicle towed because apparently they were a little over the limit. The passenger certainly was too drunk to have been driving, but he was also a passenger. But, you know, they were giving us the finger and stuff like that. They were just not in general happy with our presence.
The people that were being arrested did?
Yes.
So it seems like they were also probably pretty drunk.
They were definitely. Well, the passenger puked, I think, 3 times on the side of the streets. And I kept begging the officers to get this guy some water. They're
like some medical attention.
Yeah. They're like, if he wants some water, he'll ask for it. He's drowning in his vomit. I don't think he can.
Oh, gosh.
So I said, oh, okay. So he can ask for it like George Floyd asked for air. Yep. Got it.
After he's done.
Right? Yeah. Oh, man.
And so, I mean, this dude could have literally died of alcohol poisoning right there in the streets, and the cops...
And they don't care.
They would not have cared.
No.
They clearly didn't care. They weren't going to give this guy a bottle of water until he asked for it, and he was too drunk to ask for it.
Serve and protect, am I right?
Well, they definitely...
They were definitely serving something.
And then they went to jail, and their vehicle was towed.
That's protection, right?
All for forgetting to turn on their headlights. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up about the New South Wales lockdown and the special bubble for singles to hang out at. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You're welcome to join us. 603-283-6160. You can talk about whatever is on your mind, or you can talk about whatever we've been discussing, or you can talk about the first ever Topless episode of She Talk Live that people can watch at video.freetalklive.com. And there's some discussion about whether or not we're going to continue this moving forward. I think
it's a great idea. I'm having a good time.
We're on board.
Awesome. Then same deal next week, presumably. So, and if you value, possibly not that, but if you value Free Talk Live, a show that allows anyone to call in and express their opinions on national radio, you may consider joining the AMP program. You can find it at amp.freetalklive.com. It stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. Money that you use to join the program is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. Kingston Smith is a gold level amplifier, which means that Kingston is giving $10 per month to the AMP program. Of course, it doesn't take that much. Just $5 gets you in. That's amp.freetalklive.com, amp.freetalklive.com. Let's go to the phones, though. We have Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major Payne, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, peace, guys. How y'all doing?
Good. How about
What's
you?
on your mind tonight?
Well, I'm thinking about the inoculation rate in Iceland is like 80-90%. Okay, with this Wuhan flu. And these people are getting reinfected dime over dollar. It's just rolling on like the sunshine. These are Viking ancestors, right? This is Iceland, right?
They're supposed to be tough.
Well, the whole problem is that there are vitamin deficiencies throughout the whole world. We are deficient in selenium and boron. And
I believe that.
if you could keep up the count on that, you would be able to wag the tail of this dog that is hiding our asses.
And that would be COVID-19?
Aye.
Okay. Well, I'm shocked to hear that anywhere in the world has a vaccination rate that is that high. But I'm curious, if their vaccination rate is that high, what level of infection rates are we dealing with there? And which vaccines, because there are multiple, are they using? Because it seems like if we're going to look for somewhere where we can demonstrate that the vaccine does not prevent someone from catching COVID-19.
Well, I don't know, but I do know that Johnson and Moderna riled forces. They became one like 10, maybe 15 years ago. So this is...
it's amazing to me that anyone is trusting Johnson & Johnson. Yeah, it's amazing to me that anyone is trusting Johnson & Johnson, considering how many pending lawsuits they have.
Yeah, considering they can't even get baby powder right.
Yes, but oh no, they got this vaccine right. And we have countless examples of these pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer included. I don't know anything about Moderna. Prior to this, I didn't hear anything about them.
I don't think Fauci is in the same pocket. You guys are all retarded. I'm so sorry.
Well, we don't trust Fauci here.
Sucked into this vortex of hell.
Yeah, and it's worse in other parts of the world than it is here in the United States. I mean, it's pretty bad in like California, I think, and of course they're going to lock back down. But they telegraph their plans several months in advance. I've noticed the media started talking about we have to motivate people to get the vaccine or no one will get it. And so they said, okay, the next thing you know, the CDC recommends it. Yeah, you can take your mask off. And that didn't get enough people vaccinated.
No.
So got to put the mask back on. But it was never, they just threw that out there as a lie, as a temporary measure to entice people to get the virus. It was planned to be a bait and switch from the start, as far as I can tell. And going into the winter months, obviously.
This has all been a smoke screen. I know you guys, most of you, don't believe in a higher, well, you probably do believe in a higher power. I mean, maybe not heaven and hell. But I tell you what, we are in deliverance right now. This is revelation.
Well, if it is, it's not as bad as the Bible portrayed it as going to be.
Maybe it's just the beginning.
No, this is just the entree.
I'm sorry, what?
The roasted snails. The entree. We are
appetizer?
At the entrance of the cavern of hell.
I certainly do agree. I think it's going to get significantly worse because people aren't willing. They're so wrapped up in human hubris and the idea that somehow we're creative enough, we're intelligent enough, we're ingenious enough, we are masters of the globe, and we can come up with a way to fight this force of nature that is a vaccine, a virus.
This is not a force of nature. This is a manufactured vaccination.
Right.
The vaccination and the virus are both manufactured. And the swab, if you take the swab, the virus is on the swab.
I told you some people. Yep, I told you some people think that. Yeah,
there's
a lot of
been people that have taken the swab and run out of the clinic and cut them in half and found the virus.
How did they do that?
You're done.
Thank you so much for the call tonight, Major Payne. Always a pleasure to talk with you. I would love to talk with you more. He already hung up. Presumably he's still listening. I would love to talk with you more about your theological beliefs, how you believe this is the start of the biblical tribulation as found in the book of Revelations. I think that anyone who believes that the suffering as described there is ever actually going to happen is misled, because it was very clearly about Rome and the Roman Empire and not anything that's relevant to today. But hey, people believe what they want. We've also got Andy, who is calling from South Africa. Andy, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, everybody. Just checking in to say we're still alive, mostly down here. And
okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think I think She Talk Live is awesome. I think it challenges convention. It's really great.
Thank
Awesome,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate that.
So how are things in South Africa? I heard something there recently. I think it was about riots.
Yeah, so basically, I think, well, what happened was that they did calm down after a while, and that's how those things seem to go. And then the rioters. And then eventually, I think everybody right now is reevaluating and actually having to say, hey, maybe we need to change the social construct. Maybe we need to reevaluate the way that the government functions. These are all very good questions, but it takes people that are open-minded enough, I think, to start thinking outside the box, because the so-called democracy, when you look at how the whole system works, it's not a democracy, it's an oligarchy. And at the same time, there still needs to be some kind of organizational structure. So it's a real catch-22, I think.
Well, I would say we certainly need an organizational structure, but that it doesn't need to be a state. It doesn't need to be a government that operates a monopoly of force in a given geographic area. I think that there are plenty of ways that people could organize themselves voluntarily and actually form societies where people interact freely and with the consent of other involved parties. That's the issue that I have with the state, is that your consent is optional. And that's not really true. If enough people don't consent, then the state withers and dies. However, if 90% of the population consents, then the 10% who don't consent, they're just screwed. And no one seems to care.
Yeah, it's hard when you're outnumbered.
Yeah, and it's tragic that everyone's like, oh, well, this is your government, whether you like it or not. 603-283-6160. If you want to join the discussion, it's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Los Angeles, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. Senate has voted to begin considering a bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure bill. The move is a victory for President Joe Biden, who has been touting the infrastructure plan for months.
You may have heard that in Washington now, just on the phone, looks like we reached a bipartisan agreement on infrastructure. Fancy word for bridges, roads.
A week earlier, Senate Republicans had unanimously blocked allowing the bill to move forward. This time, the bill received support from 17 Republicans. The bill proposes around $550 billion for roads, bridges, and other transit projects. It was a mixed close for U.S. markets Wednesday as the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged. But some strong quarterly earnings helped give Boeing and Alphabet a boost during trading hours. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
Speaking at the conclusion of the Federal Reserve's two-day policy meeting, Jerome Powell announced that further economic improvement was required before raising interest rates. The Fed chair announced that the economy was strengthening despite the concern of rising COVID-19 cases, but was still far from its targets when it comes to employment and inflation. The Dow Jones closed down 0.4%. The S&P was largely flat, and the Nasdaq closed up 0.7%. In earnings news, Alphabet jumped more than 3% after posting a 69% bump in advertising revenue. Boeing closed up more than 4% after posting its first quarterly profits since 2019. William Denzelo, New York.
Tanzania's president and other government officials have received their COVID-19 vaccine shots at the launch of the country's inoculation campaign. Our correspondent Daniel Kijo has more.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan took her COVID-19 vaccine jab today. Her country becomes the latest country to roll out a COVID-19 inoculation plan. On the continent, it's only Burundi and Eritrea that are yet to begin vaccinations. The Tanzania vaccine rollout was broadcasted live on national television, where the Prime Minister, Health Minister, and other high-profile government officials also got vaccinated. President Samia said she hopes citizens follow her lead and take the jab once it's made readily available. Tanzania received 1,058,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on Saturday through the COVAX initiative. The government says it is planning to import 5 other vaccines from other sources. Daniel Kijo, Dar es Salaam.
U.S. President Biden is expected to announce Thursday that federal employees will need to get a COVID-19 vaccine or be subject to regular testing. This comes as the U.S. is seeing a rise in coronavirus cases and sluggish vaccination rates. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you want to join the discussion. That's 603-283-6160. I imagine there's a fair bit of chat over there at video.freetalklive.com, but I'm not actively monitoring it, so I don't know what people are saying, but check it out. It's where we're going. When we were just discussing during the break about how the Free Talk Live Facebook page is, I think the last post on there was from like January the 12th or something.
It's been a bit, yeah.
Because none of us are really using Facebook to any. I go on there once or twice a day to post. It's my only social media outlet at the moment.
And I can understand that why you're there.
Yes, I use Facebook Messenger way more than I do, Twitter Messenger or whatever.
Yep.
I keep in touch with friends and family through Facebook Messenger. Am I a fan of that? No. But if I was only communicating to them with Telegram and Signal as well, I would have no contact with them. So in a certain way, the utility of Facebook is that it allows me to continue communicating with friends and family.
Yep.
So that's the only social media platform I'm at. But again, the Free Talk Live page hasn't had anything posted to it since January the 12th. And for a while, we weren't even streaming there because we have one of those COVID-19 vaccine information pop-ups on our Free Talk Live videos now. We got it on at least one of them, and it was like 30 seconds in. So I'm assuming that the whole page itself has just been flagged every time we go live. But maybe there was something said in the first 30 seconds that the AI caught and was like, no, we have to stop this.
I can only imagine what was said.
So we're perpetually, it would have been in a commercial or something, right?
Exactly.
But we're perpetually looking for ways that we can, continue doing what we do without being censored by big tech companies. And video.freetalklive.com is currently the best way for us to do that.
Okay.
At least in video form. Now, obviously, we're on 200 or so terrestrial radio stations as well, and it's really hard as long as we abide FCC regulations for any centralized authority to kick us off of those stations. So that's also a huge reason why we are so heavily invested in radio.
Okay,
that makes sense. The fact that it started as a radio station, but the radio stations themselves are often owned by an individual or a family. I mean, it's changed in the last several years as Cumulus and the other one whose name I can't think of right now, iHeartRadio, bought out so many of these stations. So, I mean, they are centralized to that degree. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. Video.freetalklive.com. We were talking about New South Wales and the stuff that's going on there. There's just one more aspect of this that I really want to get into because apparently one of the main issues people had with the way that the lockdowns were conducted in New South Wales and Australia was that it left singles lonely and isolated, which, is kind of the point. But if you are single and you live by yourself, I can only imagine what, 6 weeks of not being able to leave your house except to go grocery shopping will do to you. So their new lockdown, that's extending for 4 weeks, by the way, after much community campaigning, the New South Wales government has also agreed to introduce, quote, single bubbles as seen in the Melbourne and Adelaide COVID-19 outbreaks. This means anyone living alone can nominate one person to visit them in their home. So if you're actually single, it's no use to you whatsoever.
Nope, that's it.
But if you're not single, then this single bubble will help you.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't. They're mischaracterizing. This is a couples who don't live together.
So let me get this straight. So if I'm single and I live in my home and I don't know anyone, or I don't have a partner or anyone that I can sign up to say, hey, like Nikki can come over to my house, then I'm still going to be lonely and single. They don't have like a site or anything I can go to and put my name in and say, hey, I need company, and then other people can put their name in. Like, that's not what they're talking about.
Yeah, like imagine if you had just moved there and you have absolutely no friends or family in this area, and then COVID happens and everything gets shut down and you're just barricaded in your house for months on end and you have no human contact. I mean, that's terrible.
Anyone who's going through that is going to be severely traumatized from this experience.
I mean, we're naturally social creatures.
Yep.
We need human interaction as people.
I don't want the government creating a site for people to enter their names and create. I don't want the government to create a dating site.
That makes sense,
basically.
yes.
But there are dating sites that people could use. But before, I imagine you can't easily change the one person that you've granted access to your home.
Oh, yeah.
So
today I might want to have dinner with Nikki, and tomorrow it might be you, but I can't do that.
It doesn't specify, but it probably does get further into it. But
yeah.
I can't imagine they let you just change it daily or whatever, because then it's just pointless.
Then you're not social distancing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what if you get sick of me and you don't want to see me anymore?
But in order for these dating sites like Tinder or Grindr or, Cupid or whatever
There's
to
a ton
work,
of them.
You have to actually meet the person and interact with them to figure out whether or not you even have chemistry. Of course, they don't want you to do that either. You can meet them online via Zoom.
Oh, well, that sounds really appealing.
You can have your little Zoom date. I can't imagine. I would rather just be single and not interact with people than go out on a Zoom date.
I'd probably just put a sign in the front yard with my phone number. Hey, just call me. Let's talk.
Right.
It reminds me of the dance party that we saw. I think it was the Colonial Theater here in Keene was having it. It was a Zoom dance party.
Oh my
gosh,
gosh,
I remember that.
And so I just picture this horrendously sad image of these people, with their arms wrapped around themselves, just dancing to the music
in their homes
in a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
And people are doing this now.
They did.
And they accept it as normal.
Yeah.
Like, this is the new normal. There is nothing normal about that, dude.
No, I'm sorry. When I dance, especially if there's somebody there dancing with me, I like to touch.
Yeah,
I like to get intimate and be against each other. And that's part of the whole thing when you dance is like that you're interacting with that person so intimately.
Yeah, you can't be 6 feet apart.
No way.
Even more sadly, I wonder how many of the people attending this dance party were like dancing with their cat or their dog or something because they had no one else with whom to dance. If you don't live in one of the 8 LGAs, that's local government authorities, and I don't know what context that has for Australia, but if you're not living in one of them, your visitor cannot be from any of them either. So if you in a relationship and your girlfriend lives in one of the LGAs, you still can't go visit her and she can't come visit you.
What happens? Any idea what happens if they catch you doing that?
I imagine they fine you or something. It doesn't specify what the consequences are for violating.
I would be a multiple offender. They'd be like, oh, she has a history.
I would just try to get out.
Yeah, right?
I mean, New South Wales has been locked down. We've been talking about the lockdown in New South Wales at least for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, haven't they been locked down this entire time? I haven't heard of them even loosening restrictions, really, not to like the extent that we are. And I'm wondering, can you leave? Can they leave if they want to? Or are they literally trapped there? It sounds like they're prisoners to me. It doesn't seem like they can just get on an airline and like move somewhere.
No.
And even then, if you're trying to like move to America or somewhere, it's,
America probably won't let you in.
Yep.
Exactly. So, and it's hard to get citizenship or a green card or whatever it takes to actually like live somewhere else.
But you raise a good point. It does sound like they are in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes it seem like this whole thing is just a test run for them to figure out how to prisonize the entire planet.
Are they allowed to go to their jobs? Are they allowed to work?
Only if they work at a grocery store or one of these other essential businesses.
Okay.
And I mean, if they're a construction company.
I remember that part.
Yeah. So I mean, they're severely restricted.
Yeah.
And it has to be the same person, said Miss, I've already forgot her name and her last
Gail,
name.
I think.
It was something along those lines. Gladys.
Gladys.
It has to be the same person, Gladys says. You can't have a different person every day. So yeah, you can't change it.
Well, what if you're poly? What if you have multiple partners?
What about your family?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on, you can't see your family?
Well, this is enshrining monogamy as the law of the land there in Australia.
Yep.
And I certainly don't condone that.
Well, then maybe you have like a house full of women who live together and you're all roommates and you're all poly. So you have like a 3 men that you can bring over to your house and you can all just swap.
Well, see, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. This is only for people who live by themselves.
Oh yeah.
Well, that sucks.
Because unfortunately, we know that apart from workplaces where critical work has to occur, households remain the biggest problem in New South Wales. So
just leave Australia.
Yeah,
just
your
leave.
household
Pack it up.
is the problem. 603-283-6160. If you want to weigh in on this, there's more coming up. We're going to talk about this trans person who was discriminated against. It's Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. You can still join us, probably. I imagine there's someone sitting there at the studio listening to the show, and they've been screening calls for us, so I imagine they're still sitting there. 603-283-6160. It's been a very fun show tonight.
It has.
The energy's been great, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next week.
Yes.
Now, I generally don't talk about trans things here on Free Talk Live because it's a subject I don't care about.
Right.
And more people have corrected what gender to use for me on social media than I've ever spent any time doing. I've literally never done it.
Good for you, because you don't care what they think.
No, I don't.
Yeah, perfect.
And a lot of people did this when I ran for sheriff. They're like, oh, you mean he? And, I would be getting tagged in this, and I would point out that, dude, just so you know, you've officially corrected people's pronouns for me more than I have. So other people are fixated on it. And, of course, the video chats are always fixated on it.
Oh, yeah.
I just do my thing. And they can come to terms with that, and they can enjoy the show, or they can go away.
Yes.
I don't particularly care one way or the other, but I'm just going to do my thing, and that's how it's going to be. So I generally don't care about the trans thing because I think a trans person should just be able to live their life in peace and not have to deal with constant questions and talking about it and all of that. So I tend to avoid these kinds of stories, but this one is really interesting. It's a story about discrimination, but what's important to note here, I mean, when you hear that already, you're like, oh, this trans person went out there looking for a fight and they got one and now they're going to sue because they want a payday, but that's actually not what happened here.
Not at all.
So let's get into the story.
It says the headline says 2 women wore the same top to a Burlington diner. One, who is transgender, was denied service. It says it was early on a recent Saturday morning when Anastasia and her housemates decided they wanted breakfast. Anastasia dressed in a white bralette, a denim skirt, and sneakers, and Anna Ziegler, wearing a tie-dye crop top and denim shorts, walked into Henry's Diner in downtown Burlington, but they never sat down, let alone placed an order. The hostess told Anastasia, who was a transgender woman, that she would need to cover up with another shirt to be seated. Ziegler recalled the hostess mentioning that there were children in the diner.
For those who don't know, these were fairly skimpy outfits.
It was a bralette, so it was basically like a bra or like a bikini top, and so you could see the midsection, and you could see shoulders, and a little bit of cleavage, but it was nothing that is out of the normal for someone who's been out, and having a good time at night.
Certainly.
Says, I was mortified, Anastasia, 54, said in the interview. We left and then went to get breakfast somewhere else. The next night, July 18th, she and a few friends sat in their kitchen rehashing the interaction at Henry's, and then they hatched a plan. Lucia Blanchard, Anastasia's 19-year-old cisgender housemate, walked into Henry's at around the same time the following morning, a Monday, wearing the exact same bralette and her shortest shorts. She said intentionally she wanted to show more skin than Anastasia had days earlier. She said, when I went in there, like the shorts I was wearing, you could see my butt tattoo. I'm going to be honest. I have a butt tattoo of the Energizer Bunny, and you could definitely see the bottom portion of it. Blanchard was seated at the counter without incident. She took a selfie with the menu. She asked one of the servers to take a photo with her, and she texted both to the house group chat. Henry's Diner was established in 1925 and is widely considered a Burlington landmark, the kind of place where a New York Times columnist might meet with Senator Bernie Sanders. Its location is just off Church Street and also makes its popular breakfast spot.
Where is this at? What's
in Vermont.
Oh,
it's
okay.
on Vermont Digger, and a year in which
I missed that detail. It's shocking to hear about this happening in Vermont.
Right, that's why I was so surprised. I didn't say it was. It hasn't said. It just says Burlington, but it's on VermontDigger.org.
Yeah, and they mentioned Bernie Sanders, so I'm going to go ahead and assume.
And in a year in which summer fashion trends toward
where's this? How far is this place? Because I want to go do some trolling now.
Burlington's not that far.
Not that far, no.
Yeah, it's like 40,
an hour,
40 minutes from Keene.
This sounds like it could be fun.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go.
It says that in a year in which summer fashion trends toward tinier bra-like tops, Blanchard said Anastasia's outfit was hardly more daring than what she sees other women wearing out. Anastasia's experience at the diner left her wondering what outfits are okay and how that is adjudicated. How do you say that?
Adjudicated.
Thank you.
It would be nice if a restaurant or somewhere is going to enforce a dress code beyond, having a shirt and shoes on or whatever it is that they want, that they actually post that and make it available and then apply it consistently.
Says that Henry's Diner has since publicly apologized for its handling of the incident. And she talked to her staff about customers' dress and looking into the sensitivity training. According to Maglaris, the owner and who operates the diner with her husband William, different staff members interacted with Anastasia and Blanchard. Malgaris said servers are supposed to come to her with any concerns about customers' dress, and her staff didn't do that in this case. All I know is what I've been told by employees, that they were very revealing, not appropriate clothing. It's definitely not an intentional target on anyone. That's not what it's meant to be. It was basically done without my knowledge and innocence, she said.
What is the problem with it being revealing anyway?
Yeah, who cares?
I don't know. Maybe their policy is that you have to have your midriff, your mid area covered. I don't know. It doesn't state what their policy is. It just says that it wasn't even across the board. Like they didn't enforce it evenly.
Well, and if the other girl, they literally did that social experiment where the other girl came in the same exact outfit, basically. Yeah, so it's pretty clear that they were. Yeah, yes. It was pretty clear that they were targeting the first woman because she didn't fit what a woman is supposed to look like, according to them.
It said that the diner only heard about it several days later after Anastasia wrote about her experience on Facebook. Anastasia posted on her both personal feed and Sensei Babington Facebook group, a private group started in 2015 for LGBTQ+ and femme people in the Burlington area. The group has since grown to more than 4,700 members. But
how the hell? What size is Burlington then?
Burlington's not that huge.
How do they have 4,700 members?
Well, maybe they're across the whole state of Vermont, or maybe they're coming from New Hampshire or, wherever.
Okay, fair points.
Anastasia said that she received a slew of comments, most of which were expressions of support and anger on her behalf. Some called for a boycott of Henry's. Malgaris said that
I don't want to boycott. I want to go troll
Right,
them,
that's
man.
Exactly it. Yeah, we should go up there.
Well, they won't do it now, unfortunately.
No, but they'll say, "Oh, you have to leave." Malgaris said
we could try to do like a She Talk Live Topless Wednesday after show there.
I don't know. We have to look at the hours, see when they're open. It was early morning, so they have to be open late. It says that she received. Malgaris, the owner, said that later that week she received an email that shared a link to Anastasia's post and pointed out that Henry's Facebook page was down. Malgaris said she had been unaware that the Facebook page was inaccessible and that the situation was unrelated to online criticism. Henry's page had since been restored, and the diner posted a public apology on Sunday, July 5th. Our deepest apology to the person who is affected by this. We have always supported everyone in our community and will continue to do so.
Interesting that they use the word person rather than woman.
Right.
I think when they're, arguing with the community about trans issues and they're trying to apologize, it may have been smart here to use the word woman instead of this person.
I also think they're kind of like trying to like tiptoe, like they're kind of walking on eggshells now.
I'm sure.
So they didn't want to say her and have she identifies as a woman. But maybe if she was somebody who identifies as they or something, I think they were just trying to be like extra careful. But I do get your point how it kind of comes off,
Says that Malgaris said that she has since instructed staff to see all customers regardless of dress, unless they are topless or their genitals are exposed. The restaurant also has added a no shirt, no shoes, no service policy and a sign on the door.
Isn't that just a given?
Well, a bralette would be considered a top. Right?
Yeah, you're not topless if you're wearing a bra.
It says Vermont's anti-discrimination laws for public accommodations prevent discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, among several other factors. They apply to any business that offers goods or services for general public.
Okay.
It goes into some other stuff, but nothing that really relates to that.
It's good to hear that they are, going with a consistent policy now, as long as no one's genitals are showing and as long as no one is topless. Then they're allowed to be seated. Go ahead and seat them.
Right, but a bralette, would they consider that like a bra, although it's considered a top if you buy it in a store?
Well, it's literally a top, right? I don't know that they could possibly make the argument that it isn't.
I don't know, but you know what?
We could always find out.
And what about it? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm hungry.
Let's go right now.
I have stuff to do later, unfortunately.
Okay, well, not tonight then. Got it.
Next
time.
There's a
fire happening here.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, but I hope it works out for this person. I see. There I go, saying this person. So I guess they could.
But it's also like you would refer to me as a person, right? So I think it's kind of like.
I hope it works out for Anastasia, and I'm pleased to hear that there's nothing in here about threats to sue or anything like that, because that's not the way to address this.
I think so, but it was good that they put it online and they put it on social media, and that it was out there so people can be aware and they can make the decision if I'm going to go there or if I'm not going to go somewhere who acts like that.
Yeah, social pressure and social ostracizing them socially.
There you go.
There we go. Those are the way to handle this sorts of things, not weaponizing the government, trying to beat them over the head with a police badge or whatever. The police aren't your friends, even if you want to seek them on your enemies. They're still your, I don't want to say enemies, but they're certainly not your friends.
No, it's not going to turn out good for you if you have to call them.
No, it never has. Well, I guess on occasion it has worked out for people to talk to police or to call the police, but in general, there are better ways of solving problems than interacting with the police. Well, that's it for tonight, but we'll be back same time tomorrow, and we'll be back next week with another Topless episode of She Talk Live. You can find that at video.freetalklive.com. Or you can chat with us in the meantime over at chat.freetalklive.com. It's been Free Talk Live.